No, not right now.
Okay.
Uh,
Are you just keep talking? I'm gonna check the levels here.
sure.
Close
What do you
enough.
want me to say?
Nothing. We're good. I was just checking to see
Okay.
how loud or quiet you were. That's all.
Yeah. I don't know. It's Discord doing the capture, right? So whatever Discord decides.
Yeah, Discord is the arbiter of audio truth.
Oh, hey, now it says live now.
Hey. All
Give it a
right.
second.
So let's see here. Open up
Do I
this
want to?
thing. There's that. Okay. I think we're ready to go. Did you unmute
Cool.
your mic and everything?
No, not yet.
Yeah, go ahead.
Both of them, or just
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you can check, and then you just want to see like, is my thing bumping up around the same level as yours? You would want me to be a little bit quieter than you probably.
okay? Yeah, yours is going all the way to red. Mine
Oh,
is
you should
staying
probably turn me down then.
in green. But you're not really loud um in my headphones. Oh no, that's because I've got them turned down.
But
Uh,
that'll do it.
I'll turn that all the way up. Okay, can you?
Testing,
Uh,
testing.
oh, that's loud. Okay. Oh, it's still loud.
Oh, sorry. I'll just start talking like this.
Actually, I guess no, it would be Discord that would be capturing that loudness. I have to turn
Yes.
you down on Discord. Oh, or I could just turn you down on my.
You can turn me down on yours, but then you would want to bump the volume down on your desktop capture as well.
I did. I turned the volume down on the desktop
Okay.
capture. Um,
Wunderbar.
okay.
Now we just got to get you some like start and end screens and everything, and then
Down the line.
down the line.
Eventually.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well,
I'm gonna
this.
lower mine to 75%, so it's
Okay.
not too bad. I am watching my own stream, but no audio is coming through. I guess that
Audio
makes
and
sense.
video is good to go. Levels are fine. Thank you, Lucenti. Lucenti?
Let's test.
Lucenti.
Hey, it came through.
Yeah.
Test. Hey, test. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna close my stream window
Wonderful.
because I guess I don't really need it.
So I guess we should actually explain what we're doing now and get started, huh?
Yeah.
We've put this off as long as we could. When did we start
Well,
talking about
I
this?
was
Like
well, we started talking about it August last
months
year.
ago, yeah.
Give sometime around end of summer last year.
Okay.
And then and then well, you were busy and I
What?
got
Me?
busier.
I'm never busy.
No, you're never busy. And then I went to Canada for a month and a bit.
Oh, that's
Didn't
right, you
really
did.
have I didn't have any streaming. Well, I had my MacBook, my work MacBook, but didn't want to start adding stuff to there. So I kind of keep my
Yeah. So, okay. So, but I said this in my tweet, but to actually say what it is we're doing.
right.
So, is it okay if I use your real name, or do you want me to use Mars
I mean, you can go with Amar.
with a Mar? Okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we are pro streamers, Phil. So Amar and I were what we talked about is since we're both developers at heart and semi by profession, uh, every now and then you got to learn the new languages that kind of come up and out and everything because you gotta keep up with the Joneses a little bit. And there's one that's been floating around for a while it's definitely gained a decent amount of popularity with a subset of developers called Rust. And it's supposed to be like a lower level language. It's supposed to be there to help you move away from things like I guess C++ is probably the one that it really tries to replace, right?
Yeah, I mean, so initially Go was being touted as the systems programming language, but then people very quickly realized, no, this doesn't actually help replace C++ or any of or C as low-level languages. And then a few years later, Rust popped onto the scene. Uh, and so, I mean, the Go developers eventually like stepped back the claim of, oh, it's Go is a systems programming language. Uh, but Rust became kind of that real what
Yeah.
was my first exposure to Rust?
You've
I
worked
think it
with it?
was at a no. I haven't worked
Oh,
with it
okay.
professionally. I'm trying to remember. I believe when I went to one of the PyCons and one of the talks was actually on Rust. Is like Rust for Python developers, kind of like introducing Rust to Python
Oh, okay.
developers. I was like, oh, that's cool. Went to a couple of meetups. Uh, it was it was interesting at the time. Obviously, it wasn't 1.0, not even close to 1.0. I don't know. This would have been what, 2013 maybe? 2013, 2014. When did Rust come out?
I, I'm not even going to pretend that I know.
Let's see.
Tell me Wikipedia.
That's what I'm doing.
First appeared July 7th, 2010.
2010. Yeah, so I learned about it a few years after it had been around, but uh yeah, it was still in the 0x phase.
Hmm.
And a couple of the meetups we went to was talking about how people could contribute to the Rust standard library, and it was pretty much a free for all game. I think they were still, obviously because it wasn't a 1.0, the syntax was continuously evolving. I remember there being multiple ways to have pointers, like different types of pointers. I think they eventually pared that down to just the ampersand, and then the apostrophe actually is now part of the ARC, uh, the automatic reference counting
Yeah.
library. Um,
D- Just
but
like,
yeah, it was kind of all over the place. But I mean, people were showing cool things. Mozilla was working on Servo, which was an attempt to replace the rendering engine for Firefox. Um, there were people
how did that go?
developing game engines. I know parts of Mozilla right now, or parts of Firefox. Did I say I said Mozilla? I meant Firefox. So rendering engine for Firefox. Um, I know they have replaced Mozilla has replaced part of the Firefox ecosystem with Rust components. So it is both C++ and Rust, but I don't know which pieces right now are
Okay.
Rust and which pieces are C++.
So you're
Um,
you're definitely further along with Rust than I am by a lot. I've known that it has existed for quite some time, but the only time I've seen anything is I saw somebody who like they were showing how they had built this amazing string parser or allocator or something like that in Rust, and they were
mm,
like, look at how much better it is than everything else that's ever made. And it
yeah.
was the usual thing. They're like, oh yeah, look at how much better it is, and then they showed you what they did in the other languages, and anybody who's a pro at C++ is like, why would you ever do anything like that? That's that's ridiculous. That isn't even the point of C++. Like you're
Yeah.
using C++ like a scripting language. Stop it. So that was my only exposure to Rust. Really, that's the only time I've seen Rust code.
Mm.
And the only takeaway I had from it was I don't understand why there's so many different like modifiers. I'm sure I saw the apostrophe and there was like a caret and stuff in there, and there were ampersands. I was like, uh,
Yeah, no,
okay,
there were different types of pointers that meant different things. I think before they introduced the mute or the mutable reference, that was done by I think it was done by the apostrophe. I'm not entirely sure. It could have been done by the ampersand. Again, this was like years ago, and I haven't actually ever done anything practical in Rust. I
hmm,
did a few Advent of Code challenges in it, but I don't think that's ever really flexed my Rust muscles,
okay.
quote unquote.
Well,
So
this is
I am
good
I
though.
am rusty in Rust.
Uh,
Yeah, I was trying I was
and
thinking
that's the
about
end
this
of us
earlier today.
streaming
It's like,
this. We're never doing this again. Um,
what is the Rust joke that you can make?
that's the one. It's the
That's
only
the
one.
one.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. Well, so great. So we're gonna learn Rust,
yeah.
and uh, neither of us work with Rust. I've never worked with Rust, even like as a hobby. I've
Hmm.
looked at it once. You've looked at it a little bit more than that, but I don't think you're even set up on your desktop for it, right?
I did today.
Or you did. What? Oh
Yeah.
God. All right,
Well, I
fine.
mean, you
Make
can
me
you
look
can
like a
see.
punk.
Well, I didn't know how prepared to be, so
Well, I
Uh,
haven't done anything, so everybody's gonna get to
so
watch me
I mean,
pummel through
all
here.
I've done is done Rust Hello World and
Lust?
Rust
No,
Lust.
that's a programming language I could be into.
It probably exists.
It probably it
And
probably does.
I've done well, I'm working on the third thing. I've done Hello World, Hello Cargo, and the third thing is guessing game. So
Speaking of
that's one of the
Rust,
things. I've gone through various parts of this book. This is one of the awesome things about Rust is they have the book, um, which is actively maintained and gives you a very strong introduction into the language. I mean, it's a long book.
kind of like the
I've looked
Go.
at various pieces of it.
Was it like the Go one? Because that Go
Uh,
introductory thing is
oh, the
pretty solid.
tour.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, the tour dot
Yeah, whatever it is.
go dot dev, I think. No, it's not like that. Oh, oh, shows you one.
Okay, hold on. I got a message here. What does this say? Speaking of Rust, it seems it has also slowly gained a foothold into the Linux kernel. Rust
Hmm.
support is still to be considered experimental. However, support is good enough that kernel developers can start working on the Rust abstractions for subsystems and write drivers and other modules. Well, that's cool. I think
I saw, yeah, I saw something about that. It's so they've had multiple attempts, and I think they tried the fourth attempt at getting it in. And I just saw that a few days ago, probably on Hacker News. Uh, but yeah, I don't think it's made it into the kernel yet. But they have like the fourth. They're doing the fourth attempt right now
Rust
to
for the
like get it in.
Linux kernel sent out for review for a fourth time.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's Linux kernel stuff.
Exactly.
That's hard mode for getting
Oh,
merged.
for sure. And I mean, and the just the fact that, Linus hasn't shut it down. Like he's into it. Like he's like,
Well,
"Oh
that's
yeah."
good.
I mean, drivers are definitely a pain when it comes to, kernel panics and things like that. I mean, it's very easy to overstep bounds when writing drivers. So Rust makes a good tool, and writing drivers is a good use case for Rust, right? Like you get a lot of features in the language that allow you that safety, and certain guarantees that the language provides to be able to write drivers safely in Rust, or for the kernel, or that are used by Linux.
Okay. Well, uh, all right. So I guess the other side of this then is so we're gonna learn Rust, but how are we gonna do it, right? So I think this is where I have more experience than you, right?
Hmm.
So um, there's very common programming applications that people will make to learn languages, right? Like
Yep.
the most common one is obviously a to-do app. It's like, oh, you're learning this thing here, come make a to-do app. And it doesn't matter where the language is or whatever. They're like, it's okay. You'll get all of the principles down by learning the to-do app. But, at this point, Amar and I have been programming for a while in our lives, and uh, let's be honest, we're starting to get a little bit old in the software development world. So,
No such thing.
yeah,
No
well,
such thing.
we are a little bit. It's
You're
okay.
only as old as you want to be in the programming world.
Well, then, since I am a staunch supporter of C and C++, I think I might be old. Um, but uh, one of the things that really got me into programming when I was a kid, and we're talking like I started programming when I was like 9, but when I really got into it, I was like 12.
Mm.
And the thing that made that happen were these things called MUDs. There's a couple different ways that you define the abbreviation, but it's always multi-user, and then the D is either dungeon or domain. But the point is that if you've ever heard of games like World of Warcraft or uh, EverQuest, there are other games that I'm not thinking of right now. Final Fantasy 14, so on and so forth, right? All these MMORPGs, right? The the predecessor to them were the predecessors to them were MUDs.
Yep.
Um, MUDs are internet-based games for the most part, but they're multiplayer games. And what that means is you connect over the internet. Back then, we did it with our Telnet client, and it's just text. It just keeps scrolling text up. So like you type in like the Zork game or whatever, where you're like, go north, pick up knife, and it keeps scrolling this text in front of you, and you go, okay, cool. It's I mean, you either like them or you don't. I
Mm-hmm.
think. But if nothing else, it's something that not a lot of people do these days. So when we were talking about what we could do to learn the language, we had discussions about. I remember we talked about like APIs for certain things, like
Yep.
smaller little introduction stuff, and those would be fun too. But then one day we just kind of like, uh, I'm sure it was me, and I just went, we should make a mud, and
Yeah.
uh, and that was it. We're like, oh yeah, actually that's a fun idea. Let's try and make a mud as fast as we can while we learn a programming language we haven't used. So, or have used very minimally
Mm-hmm.
in your case. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm thinking I'm gonna start to now that we're getting this kicked off. I'm gonna try and actually stream at least a few days a week and put some time into this. And Amar, you don't have to feel obligated to join me all that time, but
Yeah.
I figure we will do this fairly often together. I also have another friend, somebody who I met through Muds years and years ago, and she's going to join us. She doesn't want to learn Rust, but she has wanted us to make a Mud for I think decades now is technically applicable. But so she's going to join, and she's going to kind of I assume she's going to give us demands and everything, and say, well, I want it to do this, and we'll go.
Well, you need that project manager, that
Yeah,
that driver,
yeah,
the
somebody
the,
to
the quote unquote annoying client.
yes, yes. So, but she's good people, and she's really into Mud. She still plays them all the time to this day, and
Cool.
yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. And yeah, yeah, I'm gonna keep saying it's Lucenti, but um, Colossal Cave Adventure from Fortran to Rust. Ooh, that is tempting actually, but no, 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 no. We're gonna make a custom Mud. We've been talking about this for months. We will not be swayed. Though that actually does sound like a pretty great idea. Um, and we can do that later after we're Rust experts. All right.
Sounds good.
So you already did all the stuff for installing. I haven't done any of that, so I'm gonna
Yeah, we can
I'm
go
gonna go through
through
this.
the
So
getting started.
I want 64-bit. Did you use the installer or did you do it through WSL?
I did it through Rust Up for Windows.
Rest up. Okay.
Yeah, that's how they recommend when you
This
go
is the.
to rustlang.org. They have the WSL version if you want to do that too. The install recommended using Rust Up. And I was like, yep, 64-bit.
Okay. So install something called Cargo. I'm assuming Cargo is their uh,
Rust Up basically installs everything for you.
is Cargo like npm their package management
Yeah,
system? Okay.
dependency management. Yep.
Okay. Self uninstall. Okay. So one. Great. Clippy. What's Clippy?
I think that's a Windows similar to Brew for Mac.
Oh, okay.
Clippy is like
Like chocolatey
something.
and stuff.
Yeah. I
I'm
also learned that
I'm
there's
gonna be honest with
something.
you. I miss Clippy. Clippy got a lot of hate. I never understood it. Clippy just always wanted to help,
I
and I
I
couldn't be
don't.
mad at him for that.
I mean, I don't think I got hate. It was just,
No, people
well, maybe it
hated Clippy.
did. Yeah, I
Oh,
guess.
they hated Clippy.
I mean, I liked the little animations that you got from it. It was kind of cool. I had never really paid attention to it. I think uh, it was the original Grammarly
Okay, so
with a cool little
we're done.
icon.
So how do I?
It should have modified your path already.
Okay,
Um, and so I guess if you bring up PowerShell or command prompt, you should Rust C dash dash version.
Rust C.
Rust C, Rust compiler. And you should have cargo as well. I think by default it puts it in your home user profile dot rust up, maybe?
Okay, I have 1.58.1 installed,
Yep.
and
Same.
then rust up
That is the current.
update. Okay,
Yeah, it's
cargo
a neat little tool. Doesn't.
version
Yep.
1580. Got it. Okay, here we go. It's available in many editors. So I have VS Code, Sublime Text. I have IntelliJ. I think I have IntelliJ installed.
I don't know if
I
there's
might
like a
not.
Rust specific version of. I'm just using VS Code. So um with the Rust Analyzer extension,
Okay.
they say it's better than the default Rust one. So what do I have installed here? I've got Rust Analyzer, um, even better TOML, and Crates, which
Oh,
is
they use TOML. I'm
yeah, Cargo is TOML.
so here's the thing. TOML is actually a great configuration language. It actually is. It
Yeah,
just because I've been doing this as long as I have, I get pissy because I'm like, that's not what an ini file looks like, and it's like, well, no, obviously not, because it's what an ini file should have
it's
looked like.
yeah,
Like, I understand it's the correct improvement, but part of my brain, like the little caveman part of my brain, is like, all right. So I didn't have IntelliJ installed, but so if you're gonna try VS Code, I'm gonna try IntelliJ, and
yeah.
maybe we could do some compare and contrast here, because I use a lot of JetBrains
Mm,
stuff, so it's a familiar environment for me. So
yeah.
let's see how they do with the Rust support.
Yeah, I mean, my next challenge is to go to Vim. So
Really?
it's funny. My evolution in terms of using programming environments
Hmm.
went from like full-blown IDE, like the original Visual Studio when you had Visual Basic 6.
Hmm.
I mean, I did some in command prompt basic stuff,
Okay.
basic, way back when it was just like, yeah, go to, it's like print this, go to 10. It's like infinite loop.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
but I mean, I didn't actually start programming until like high school.
Oh, okay.
And we did Visual Basic 6 in grade 10 computer science. Yeah. That was one of the options. So I took computer science in grade 10. We
We
did
did
Visual Basic
we did
6.
freaking JavaScript,
Ooh.
and that was like we had basically, if I remember correctly, and I wonder
Yeah.
if my buddy friend Squirrel is watching because he will remember. But like, if I remember correctly, they basically had two like tech classes in our high school, and one of them
Hmm.
was JavaScript and HTML and stuff like that, and then the other was like Cisco.
Huh.
So it's like really rudimentary, and then Cisco. It's like I don't know. It was always a funny. It seems like a pretty big divide between the two,
Yeah.
because it's
Yep.
like, wow, that's Cisco is not.
Uh,
That's intense.
yeah.
All right,
Oh man. Yeah.
I lost my window
What
here.
what did we do in high
Oh,
school? I
okay,
mean,
we're
my
done.
high school was very new, so
IntelliJ.
we had a lot of options. They had electrical engineering, computer engineering, computer science. They had um, what was it?
Did
AutoCAD, like
Cisco. Did programming in
designing
high school.
designing in CAD. We had a machine shop. It's a pretty good high school. Still is, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I
That's
graduated from
impressive,
there
you know.
16 years ago. Actually, I'm wearing
This
their
is
t-shirt right now. It's like, I don't know if you can see. Rick Hansen.
oh nice. You see which one I'm wearing?
Yeah, I saw it and I was like, wait, that I know that purple and
Yeah.
that logo.
It says there's one that needs updated. I must find it and
Yeah.
update
So,
it.
anyways, what was I saying?
Okay.
I went from IDEs and then going down.
Which is the exact opposite of the direction I went. I, cause like so the first programming I ever did was on like a trashed trash 80, a TRS 80,
Mm,
like Model 2 or something like that.
yeah.
And so like there was nothing on that. It was an early computer,
Yep.
and yeah. I didn't do anything serious on that, and then when we eventually we got a Packard Bell computer, because I broke my dad's like old, I think it was an IBM PC 3200. I
Mm.
kept breaking all of his computers. I don't think he had, I don't think he appreciated it at the time, but hey, look where I am now.
Yep.
But then we got
Look
the
at me
Packard
now,
Bell, and I
Dad.
started using like Notepad and Nano Pico, which is exactly what
Mm.
CTE just said. He did the exact same thing, because I used Nano and Pico to edit things on the server for the mud that I worked on, and then I
Right.
would use Notepad on my machine to like. I was like, yeah, no, I know what I'm doing. I had no idea what I was doing. They're like, hey, does anyone here know how to program in C? I was like, ah, yeah, me, totally me. Meanwhile, I'm like trying to search for what is C. And I'm like,
Mm.
it's not a letter. I'm pretty sure that's not what they mean. But okay. So what do I need here? All right, this is from JetBrains, so this must be
The official.
the official one.
Yeah.
Sure, install TOML. That's fine. And then local Rust playground. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, fine. Okay. All right, restart the IDE. Here we go.
Oh, actually, I can
It is
play your stream.
it is kind of weird, Lucente. I mean, and that was kind of my point. Like, for them to choose those two things, right? To have JavaScript and HTML and everything, and then the other end of it is Cisco, and like there was nothing in between, is weird. It's weird. It also caused me to almost go for my what is it, CCNA? The associate is like the lowest level
Mm.
one. But I also
Right.
worked for the school district by the time I graduated. Like before I graduated, I was working, and I was like doing. They're like, hey, do you know what Linux is? I'm like, oh yeah, sure. My entire career is people asking me, "Hey, do you know how to do this?" Me saying yes, lying completely, and then just figuring it out along the way. And be like, man, I did not know how pointers worked in C for like 7 or 8 years. But what I had done is I had figured out. Sorry, I didn't know why they worked, but I had figured out how they worked. So I was like, okay, if I put an ampersand here and then an asterisk here, it seems to work. Like it does the thing that it does elsewhere, so this is good. And I like if you had asked me to explain, I'd be like, I don't know. It's just how the language works. And
Right.
then eventually, like after I stopped going to college, I somebody was like, "What do you mean you don't know how that works? But you built this thing like you use them." I'm like, "Well, I don't need to know why it works to use them. Don't be ridiculous." and I have tried ever since that day to never suffer that embarrassment again, because I'm like, you know what? I should probably try and figure out how these things work. That's why I'm doing that
Um,
project with Jamie and John on Thursdays or Fridays, where
mm.
we're
The Turing
yep the
Turing
logic
complete game.
circuits and everything. Because I'm like, well, I understand the concept. I've never done it. Okay, all right, focus up, focus up. Here we go. I got this. What well, all right, I think I got that. Generating a new project. Cargo new
Hmm.
hello Rust.
Yep.
Okay, so cargo new hello Rust. Created binary hello Rust package. Does that work? Yeah, I didn't think so.
What are you What are you doing?
I'm browsing it in PowerShell.
Mm. Okay. Okay.
Why is it a why does it get repo?
Oh, it just
It just does
assumes.
that automatically?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, open. Um, just remember where my stuff is. Hello Rust. Here we go. I had A plus N plus in 9th 10th grade, CCNA in 12th, and final part of CCNA in college. There's one C++ class in college, but it had some crazy high math prereq. Why does C++ need to? No, whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna trust that. We're gonna trust that project. Okay, so let's take a look at this here. Cargo.toml. You can go away. Package name version edition. Edition. What does that? What does that matter? Okay, well at least we're consistent on that CT. Okay, so
Should give you a very basic main.rs file with a little hello world.
yeah. Well, so I'm looking at the config file and I'm just seeing what kind of stuff. The Rust edition. Do they do Rust by year?
Yeah, they do. I think,
No.
I don't know if, mm, I know 2018 was the last one. I don't know if there's been a 2021 since.
Well, this thing says
I f-
2021.
Okay,
IntelliJ
so that
says
is
2021.
okay. Yeah, so that should be
Is
the
that
newest one,
important?
actually.
What is that? Does that
Um,
basically tell you what it? Does it like
I,
say
I
it
think so.
expects
Yeah,
this then?
it basically says what version of uh. So I know there was one in 2015, then there was 2018, and 2021 is the latest one. Um, I I can't remember what are the specific changes between each one. I guess we can
Okay.
take a quick look.
Yeah. Is there um, Rust version history? Let's look at that. And by the way, I mean, for those of you who are curious about the learning part of this, it may seem like it's kind of weird that I'm focusing on this, but this is actually kind of useful. Because by learning the way that they do their release processes and everything, I kind of give myself an idea of how often I should expect to have to update things in projects and all that. Why did you put 3 asterisks? What does that
Who
mean?
did?
You did.
Where?
In my.
Oh, it doesn't like links. I sent a link. Your bot automatically filtered it out.
Well, how do I stop it?
I don't know. It's your bot. I'll send it to you in Discord.
Making a lot of assumptions about my understanding of this bot that I.
So not only are we
We're not
learning
gonna.
Rust, we're also
Yeah.
learning how to stream. So I mean,
Yeah.
like my setup is completely messed up, obviously. But
Okay. 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 Okay.
I need a third monitor.
Okay. What was I saying? Oh, I was talking about the. Yeah. Whatever.
Why
It's useful.
learning about how they do their version changes and what the different editions are, and
All right. Here we go. Forge.rustlang.org. Why does this seem really old?
because I feel like it might not be the.
This is not the latest one, right?
No, I mean we're on 1.58, so that is very, very old. I feel like the official site should have.
So just. Is it gonna be learn? Check out Rust
Well,
by
I sent you
example.
a link for what the edition guide means. Um,
Okay. Changes the language and otherwise be out backwards compatible. So they do additions.
mhm.
So they do additions as opposed to like major versions.
So far, it seems to be, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, I can't remember what was it? So Rust 2015 has the theme of stability, which came with
Yeah. Go
release
ahead. Go ahead.
1.0.
CTD. Enable the crap out of them. Is the all caps thing in there too? Because if so, turn that off. I want to know when people are so excited that they're screaming.
Who was it last time? Zenothia?
Yeah. Zen guy. She got the ban hammer for a second. I don't think she even said anything bad. She did
All
like
caps.
one word in all caps and it was like you
And then
have
I did an all
you
caps
have
right
fallen
after,
for
and it
this trick.
didn't.
Well,
Yeah, and I did
what
an
is
all
the
caps after, and
crown
it
that
didn't
you
ban me.
have? I don't know what that is. Oh,
Um,
your Prime? Your Prime
I
Gaming?
Is
Maybe
it?
maybe it gives you special
Yeah, I
permissions
guess. I don't know.
because you connected your Amazon account.
Yeah, probably.
Because you connected your Amazon account, you can have emotion.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Okay. So additions are the same as major versions in other languages. So like the Rust edition might be similar to like the C++ standard versions. So C++
Mm,
99, 11, 20, so on and so forth. Okay.
yeah.
Uh, Rust version. The minimal supported Rust version. So most of this is metadata, but it looks like a couple of these are useful for setting up the environment so that people can. Yeah, you do have a lot to teach me, Zen, about streaming. Despite the fact that I've had the account forever, I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, okay. Back to this. Dependencies. I suppose that makes sense. Whatever. Good enough. Cargo check on the fly analysis is turned off. Okay. I didn't ask. FN main, so functions are FNs. Print
Hmm.
print line with an exclamation point.
That's a macro.
All macros end with exclamation points.
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Okay. All right. Um, and I'm assuming I build project. Run project. Run. Okay, it doesn't. Cool.
Yes, I mean, I guess I
How
can
do you?
tell people what I did.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
I'm
I mean, I
just.
just used Rust up as the installer. It did all the things. I opened up the Rust book. Um, I have VS Code installed in already. So what was it? The extensions that I added were Rust Analyzer, um, provides uh, Rust Analyzer as an alternative to, I guess, the default um, LSP server that Rust ships with. Um, but it gives you all these little features: code completion, highlighting, etc. Just a little nice to haves. I added better TOML or even better TOML. Also because it has a Rust crab on top of it. Although I think there are quite a few options for that. And then I added crates, which I might need or I might not need, but supposedly allows you to do easier dependency management directly on the cargo.toml file that you'd use with your Rust project. Um, and then yeah, I just did the first two things, which were Hello World. Um, which was done without cargo. And then Hello Cargo was done with cargo.
Okay. Um.
Yep.
Okay. So they use the same entry point as C, C++, etc. with main.
Yep.
Got it. That'll be nice. I'm used to that. Uh, yep, got it. Okay. So all work with program, prints text to screen. Indent with 4 spaces, not a tab. That's disgusting.
Really?
It is disgusting because now I can't
Why?
customize that. Why?
It's
It's the
something you
dumbest
shouldn't have
thing
to
to
think
have.
about. It
Exactly. I
they
should be
do
able
it
to do
for
an
you.
editor config. No, no. They made a decision for me. I didn't ask them to do that. It's
Well,
bullshit.
that I mean, that's the thing. And that's also why I like GoFumped, right? It's not everyone's favorite. Yeah, they use tabs instead of spaces. And I'm sure other people would prefer to use spaces, but it's just one thing that everyone loves to hate GoFumped. Uh,
I don't hate
or
GoFumped.
I'm just using it as a colloquialism, I guess. But it's some people hate it, some people love it. There's people who are neutral about it, right? Like there's
C to
no
D agrees with me. He says they made a bad decision. Tabs are correct, and That is why CTD and I are friends. It's
Well, I mean,
listen. Here's my thing. Okay, this is,
I,
and I promise I'm
I'll
not gonna
be.
bring this up anymore. I promise this will be the last time. You can call me out on it when I eventually forget that I promised that. You could be like, "You promised." I,
And we've
I
got it
will
on
accept that.
stream
We
too.
have it on stream. It'll be saved. Here's my thing. The reason that I like tabs more than I like spaces. Tabs give the individual the opportunity to customize the shape of their code,
Yep,
right?
that's
So
true.
for indentation, that is superior. Obviously, you align with spaces because why would you align with tabs? Then it gets all screwy. But like for indentation, tabs are
Hmm.
superior, and I
Yeah.
will I will forever believe that just because I don't like to have huge blocks of indentation in mine, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But people obviously
No,
disagree, so that's
and
fine.
to be honest, like I get the whole tabs versus spaces. There's arguments on both sides for it. I know people who talk about, oh, the specific indentation in Python just, it it's an annoyance for a lot of people who are coming from other languages where
Yeah.
indentation doesn't matter and all of a sudden it does. But I'm just a malleable person. I just go with, go I did Python with spaces for a long time, C++. Well, I did a little bit of C++. I don't know what Visual Studio automatically did. Like it did auto indentation for us, so but I can't remember if there's like any specifics. I guess it doesn't matter because everything is wrapped inside your curly braces.
Could you use Rust Fumpt to like? Could I use that to do tabs and then have it
I don't
fix
know.
it?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe. I haven't used Rust Fumpt actively. I don't know if Rust Analyzer actually installs it by default or not. Um, see,
It
today I
does install
learned.
it by default. It said.
Okay, git command Rust Fumpt. Yep, it's there. So I guess, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have. Oh
Okay,
my God.
so this is
I
this is something I could look into, and this might help me assuage my concerns.
Mhm.
But okay. All right. So getting back to it. So we have main macros end with an exclamation point. Functions do not. Fine. Got it. I don't know why that distinction is important, except maybe readability, but that's fine. That's not something I'm going to complain about. And the line with semicolon. Great. Compiling running are separate steps. Sure. It's a binary system, obviously.
Yep.
Okay. So hello cargo.
Hmm.
And okay, yeah. Unsurprisingly, this is going to look very similar, I assume.
Yep. Pretty
Cargo.
much exactly the same.
What did it say?
The only
Cargo.
difference is,
New. Hello, cargo.
yep.
We'll do that. Open cargo.
Oh, I heard GPU prices are finally starting to fall.
Are they?
Just random aside. Yeah, apparently. Apparently mining is becoming too hard or something like that. I don't know. The demand for it seems to be slowly going down, but CPUs, or AMD's high performance CPUs, the 5000 series ones are reducing in price. GPUs are reducing in price, but we'll see. I mean, they're still crazy expensive, but who knows? I've been wanting to build a computer since 2020, and maybe 2022 will be the year of building a desktop and maybe attach a couple of monitors to this setup. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just setting it
They-
so that Control W closes. Oh, thank you. That's another pet peeve. Pest peeve. That's a pest peeve.
Pest peeve. It's both a pest and a peeve.
Jesus. Does that apply to everything? I hope that applies to everything. Okay. Don't ask me that again. Stop asking me to add this stuff. And CTD just use hard tabs for indentation spaces for alignment. Default value false, possible true. Yeah, that's great. So, okay, I'll have to look into that. That'll make me, well, I won't say it'll make me happy,
Mm.
but it'll remove one less annoyance from my life. So, to start. Okay. Cargo, blah, blah, blah. So, sorry, you were going to say, what's the difference between cargo and Rust? It looks like the
Between
same
cargo
exact.
and
Yeah.
oh no, yeah, it's the exact same example. It's just like hello world is create a directory and put a main.rs file in it. But the cargo one basically is tiny amount of bootstrapping on top of that. It gives you the git, gives you the cargo.toml file,
But that's
and
what the other one did.
the hello
Yeah.
the hello world one.
Yeah. Hello Rust did the same thing. Remember, I said, why is it a.
Oh, you did hello Rust from the other site. That hello Rust is equivalent to hello cargo in the Rust programming language book. So if you had done hello world from the Rust programming language, then you would have not used cargo to initialize. You would have just created a directory, created your
Oh, oh,
main.rs
oh,
file,
oh. Okay,
and
so
then
there's no real difference between Rust C new and Cargo new if you do it that way.
I guess not.
No, there isn't. I mean, based off of what it generated, there is no difference. Maybe
Hmm,
they have other things that they can do different down the line, but they both
maybe,
they
yeah.
both generated the same exact thing,
Okay. I mean, Rust CNU could just be an alias for running cargo behind the scenes anyways.
which, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, anatomy of a Rust program. Got it. Been there, done that. Wait, no, it was in the old one. Cargo build.
Yep. Yeah, they give you three commands there: cargo build, cargo check, and
Cargo
cargo
fast.
run. Cargo vroom vroom, I guess.
Cargo space? No. Cargo road. Unoptimized and plus debug info. Well, it's a hello world. I really hope you don't optimize it too much. Oh,
I mean, maybe.
interesting. So that is a difference. So if you do cargo build, it actually puts it into a target file.
Hmm. Yep.
Um,
Yep. Yeah, it generates a target directory, which I think. Yeah, so it really has two versions. So by default, it'll build a debug version. If you just do cargo build, and then if you do cargo build dash dash release, that will build a release version of your binary.
I didn't even name these consistently because I'm an idiot.
Mm.
Interesting. Okay. So, yeah. All right, good to know. So cargo will actually try and do some other things. There is definitely a difference there when it comes to compiling things. Okay. Okay,
Oh yeah,
okay.
for sure.
Building for release. Cargo build release.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that does it with optimization. So let's do hello cargo. Let's see. ls target. So, oh god. Hello cargo .exe. So cargo build release. The same file sizes, but oh no, wait, hold on. It would be a different folder, wouldn't it? Yeah. So 152576 versus 148480. So yeah, you save a lot. I mean, obviously there's nothing to the program, so it's not going to have a lot to
Yeah.
optimize. But okay, cool. So we have different things for release. Got it. So I mean, all of this is pretty similar to languages like C++, C, Go,
Mhm.
C Sharp.
Yeah, you got Cargo Run, you got Go Run, C Sharp. I have no idea. Last time I used C Sharp was in 2009.
Well, if you use .NET Core, which you should,
Hmm.
you also
That's the
have,
newest stuff, right?
yeah,
So,
that's the cross-platform one. And
yeah,
if you do that, you also have run and build and all of that shit. So,
yeah.
okay. Um, Programming a guessing game.
Hmm.
Okay. Don't really. Let's go look at some code. Let mute guess equals string new. Use standard IO. IO standard in, read line, mute guess. I'm assuming mute means mutable.
Hmm.
Expect. Failed to read line. Expect. What is expect?
That is giant.
Okay. An instance of IO result has an expect method that you can call. If this instance is an error value, expect will cause the program to crash and display the message as you passed as an argument to expect. Okay, fine, I get it, but you get a warning. So here's my question, and maybe you don't know this yet, but maybe I should just start copying this code over. Can I do an expect? Like, this returns a result, right? So
Mhm.
let res equal that, and then if
You might want to increase the
res,
size of your editor.
what
It's kind of tiny.
is it?
The code that you're writing, yeah. I don't know. Control plus,
Well,
usually.
but I should do it. Nope, that's not what I want. Nope, undo that. That's worse. Okay.
Can't you just do Control plus inside the text
Yeah, but I
editor?
want to make sure that it's permanent. Font. Here we
Oh,
go.
permanent.
No, not JetBrains Mono. Go to heck. Is that better?
I don't know. Haven't still. Yeah, much better.
So first of all, I should be able to do that. Blah, blah, right?
Hmm.
But here, let's do the, God damn it. No. I love you, Visual Studio, but please no. Not right now. This is not the time. Cargo build.
Oop.
What? Unused variable res. Oh, yeah, okay. No, I know. I'm getting there. Okay, but it says I can get rid of that if I do this. Okay. Are you happy? You are happy. I'm confused. Why are you? I thought I would be told you are unhappy with no expect. It very clearly says if you don't use the expect. Okay, so but now here's where we get it. So okay, so one of the things I need to actually remember to speak out loud when I'm thinking this stuff, don't I?
Hmm.
So okay, so I'm looking at this, and one of the things that I'm immediately seeing is it's like, okay, so it's great that they have this expect method in here, but my question is, this is a very different way of catching errors compared to other languages. So the question I have is this something that I can use? Can I assign this to a variable and then basically in a separate place for organizational purposes call the expect. The one thing that's odd though is I'll try this without storing the variable, but it's odd that please stop. Uh, so yeah, let's do it with this build. Okay, and there's yeah. Am I even rusty, bro? No, I would not say that I'm rusty yet. Okay, so there's the warning, but it gets rid of the warning if I include it as a thing. So uh, I'm basically trying to determine like is are there different ways that I can handle that expect that it expects the expect, which now leads me down the path of saying check if variable is type in Rust. How to check type of variable, and this is how I do most of type of X.
So you would do, hmm. Well, so the result is going to be effectively like it's a boxed tuple, right? Like the first
Sure.
item is your whatever value, uh, or I guess maybe a pointer to your value. I'm not sure. Because I think by default it's when my editor is saying when I split it out into res dot read line, it says result
Can
usize
do
error.
can do let parens equals var if you want to know the type the error will indicate it. I want to know the type the error will indicate it. Well, I don't fully understand that yet, but let's see what happens. So maybe we will understand. Okay.
Oh, I think empty parentheses are like your void type or like a nothing. Trying to
So
remember.
it's like void. Okay.
Yeah.
Empty tuple. All right. By the way, just as a note, since I'm seeing this stuff show up here, and I'm assuming that this is what their generic system works like, I'm really happy about that because though I have generally enjoyed my time with Go, I'm really not happy about their use of square brackets for generics, which CTD is probably sick of hearing me bitch about. But
Yeah, they're the new contracts slash constraints slash square bracket. I mean, it literally just goes against how every other language has done
oh,
generics. It's
sorry.
literally
Okay, is it Sinocron or Sinocron? I apologize, I don't know which it is. But um, are you saying that this is a way to get the type during the build stage like I did here? So it'll just tell me it's like, hey, by the way, it's not an empty tuple, it's result usize error. Is that what you're trying to say? I'm wondering if that's what they were saying. Yeah, it's just useful if you as a dev want to know. Okay, that is very useful, but I guess my question was more in the course of building something, if I want to store this in here, right? Of
Mhm.
course, uses lots of auto. Okay, I mean that's fine. Like at this point, you should be able to use auto in most situations. Like um, it's it's kind of funny that C++ took as long as it did to add something like that. But okay, so but like what I'm really looking for is I want to do if type of res is air, right? I don't know if that's correct. I assume it's not. But like this is what I'm looking to do, so I can basically have a generic catch and say, okay, well I'm gonna do these things, and then I have this generic function up here where I'll say, report error, blah, like type name t. Don't mind my C++ creeping in here. If let error e equals res, stuff with error. Error.
You should be able to. I mean, I'm sure the result. So I guess that's where we can start looking at the Rust docs and look at what result, how result is defined.
So this, was this what I can do? I mean, it doesn't seem to dislike it. Let's try. It did not like it. Okay. Oh, right, because then what I'm doing is I'm creating this as a like a closure or something, and I'm saying,
Yes.
so it's not error anymore. It's it's not a result thing anymore. It's an error or error. It's an
Well,
error.
so you can't. Can you unbox a result into just the error? Because the result is. I guess it's like how do you destruct? Can you destruct? What's the term? Destructuring? Like, can you destructure
Yeah,
stuff in Rust?
unbox it. Yeah, we're gonna do a match
Yeah.
statement, match res error.
Yeah, but I
Okay,
mean,
size.
because the result will give you one of two values, right? It's either going to be okay or there's going to be an error, right? Um,
Ah, okay. All right. All right. I'm beginning to understand that. So I should open up another text editor here. Make sure I don't show anything I'm not supposed to. Am I using the Rust book? Yeah, I'm using the Rust book, but you know, I'm a little stupid. I got to the expect thing in the book, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But what if I don't want to do it as an expect everywhere? And that's how we ended up where we are.
yeah,
Because it's
no,
sort of
then you would likely use a match on your result value.
yeah.
And you can match on the okay or you can match on the error.
So what I could
Um,
do is I could do function check for error result
I
res.
guess, but I don't know if you can do that with a generic result type. Can you? Yeah, yes, you can.
No? Okay.
Uh,
Wouldn't use a function.
so Rust, I think the variable name goes before the type, so it would
Oh,
be
okay.
res colon result. But then I don't know if you'd have to specify the type of result because result is a generic type built on TE.
New template, yeah.
Yeah, so this is where their docs are really good. I'll send you the link. That at least I'm just assuming that we're looking at the STD result type.
Okay. So, and again, to step back for people who are watching this to see how we learn a language, the result returned by the read line. Well, we would, right? Like that because I would be doing let res equals, and res is actually the result of IO standard in read line. Like it's actually coming from read line, unless this unless Rust looks very differently on this. That would make sense to me. Okay, sorry. So what was I saying? Oh, uh, yeah. So to get back to like what the thought process is here. So because, and I'll speak for myself here, Amar, but I'm gonna guess that you actually probably think about these things similarly. Like after a certain amount of time with programming, you develop kind of like habits, right? And they're structural habits. So I know when I get into a program that I'm building and it's this size or this complexity, I'm going to start to abstract certain things away so that I don't have repeated code all over the place, right? It's very important at times because if you have a massive code base, you don't want to be calling, if error print line because you're just doing the same thing every single time. Well, yeah. Um, but so part of this process is like I have to go and I have to start to kind of mash Rust and what Rust's paradigms and everything are
Mm.
against my internal set of structures and everything, and to the point of I'm gonna go with Sinachron for now. I don't know why. But I'm going to go Sinachron. So to the point of what Sinachron just said, you more or less need to ignore a lot of stuff you've learned when using Rust until you get more used to it. Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of the point. Like, I mean, I've been doing this for many, many years. I go through this every single time I learn a new language, and that's maybe what's kind of different for those of us who are not learning something as our first language. Like, when you've been doing this for 10, 15, 20, 25 years,
Mm.
what you're actually doing at the beginning is you're figuring out which sub column of like programming language types a new language falls into.
Mhm.
Um, it's I mean, and every now and then you do come across a new one, and Sinachron's saying it's different from most languages, and that might be true, uh, but now I have to go through the process of making that evaluation for myself internally because though it is helpful, Sinachron, I mean, I do appreciate you offering the notes. It it's one thing to get those notes and be like, okay, fine, I need to be aware that that could be the case, and it's another to just hear you say it and be like, okay, yeah, this is a completely different thing. Well, no, I mean, for me, I have to know, fine, it's going to be different in certain ways, so fine, I'm going to look at every new thing that I learn as where does this differ from the structure that I might use in a PHP or a C++ or a Go. Like, what are the
Right.
differences here? And it's going to be a process. And I think sometimes I don't know about you, Omar, but sometimes I get a little jealous of people who are learning languages for like their very first thing. So I'm like, oh, this is easy for you. You just don't know what any of this is. So all of it is new. This is great. But we get to sit here and be like, that's weird. That's nothing like the match system that I use in language X. Uh, Wonderful. Let me figure this one out. Um,
Yeah, for me, the Rust match syntax is very similar to the Scala match syntax.
oh,
Um,
okay.
it's almost identical actually,
Hmm.
in terms of what you can. I imagine like Rust was probably inspired a little bit by how Scala did it, or maybe Scala even took it from somewhere else. I don't know. That's just my own experience of it. But I get it. I mean, when I was doing Java programming way back when, uh, there was always, this was even before I was using Git. Like I don't know when Git existed. But this was a little bit before I was using Git. Uh, and
More about the bar. Check out
there
the
was always like
functions.
a bunch of utility. We always wrote a bunch of utility libraries, right?
Hmm.
Eventually, uh, that I would just build up over time of okay, like yeah, these are common utilities that are just useful, and I would basically copy paste them into whatever new project that I was working in instead of having them as a module that I could pull in. But eventually, I discovered the Apache Common Utils libraries. I was like, oh, hey, here's all the stuff that I've been copy pasting all over the place, and it's like it's already available.
Hmm.
Um, but I imagine like there are probably certain error handling crates that have abstracted some of the, how you do error handling in Rust. So I guess that would be my approach to it is here I'll just follow the way the language is doing it, and how they're teaching it to you.
Hmm.
And then eventually, go either on Reddit's Rust or wherever else, Hacker News. Well, Hacker News is more generic, but like the Rust subreddit to see what people are popping out. And I think the other thing now that's very popular and I think is available for almost every major programming language is like an awesome repo on GitHub. So people will
Lucenti,
compile.
I apologize. I still need to get my stream settings set up. Um, I don't even know what they are. I, so sorry. Did not mean for that to happen. I'm sorry your message is gone. Um, yeah. Okay. No, that makes total sense, Amar. Um,
Yeah.
And
So eventually you kind of you figure out a pattern of okay, here's I'm going to learn it. I don't necessarily approach it from how do I want to do abstractions right as I'm learning, because I know someone will have already thought of it, and I can go search that stuff up pretty easily after I know how to do the basic things in that language. Um, but yeah, that's
yeah.
my general approach right now.
See now, this is actually very familiar from a bunch of other languages now. This question mark operator that Sinachron mentioned,
Mm,
and how it's syntactical sugar for transforming a match.
yep.
Um, yeah, like you can get that in. I know I get that in. I think you get it in PHP now. I think you can get it in C Sharp for sure. Um,
I
there's
know they added it in Swift, I think.
it's in Swift too. Okay.
It's in Kotlin for sure.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
great. I mean,
it's in
these
a lot
are
of places.
yeah. It's well, and it's one of those things too. Like, yeah. So as a C++ fan, one of the things that I love most about new languages that say they're going to, replace C++ is like that usually always means that I get a nice new feature in C++ within the next 5 years. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh, yay. Like, we finally got shared pointers and everything because of um, all kinds of things. I'm like, oh, good. That'll make my life a little bit easier when I got to go back to my C++. As much as I love C++, it is a difficult language at times and it's very dangerous. Like, but I'm never going to get away from it. So I just like it when everybody starts to share features, make things better. Um, anyway, okay, all right. So now I understand. I mean, I am still curious what I have to. I see a result has two, so I guess
Yes, I mean
I
you
guess
could
I'd have
either
to figure
make your
that out.
method
But
generic.
yeah, I'd have to make it generic somehow. Um, but I'll
That
skip that for now. I'll skip it for
that'll
now.
come a little
That's
bit
fine.
later.
Yeah, we'll just go back to this and we'll say I failed to read line. Oops, and do that. If you really want. Well, yeah. No, and that would work, but then it wouldn't be very generic, right? Like to Amar's point, what he was just saying. If you were gonna do that, you'd want to make something that was relatively generic. So you wouldn't want it to rely on on this thing telling you exactly what type. Although I guess you could just make a whole series of them.
Yeah, I mean it then comes down to what are you using that generic method for, right? Like are you going to try and capture every single type of error that your application throws down, you know, are you
Yeah,
going to pipe every error through that?
yeah.
Or, is it going to be for specific things? And that ends up being use case dependent. So,
Okay.
uh,
So Amar, Zen actually managed to catch what Lucenti sent to us. So
yeah, it still it's showing up in your stream. So it says, I have a quick question regarding new
what?
technology.
I
How do
don't
you
see it.
retain and deepen the knowledge once you have acquired it? In particular, if you don't have colleagues you can talk to and don't have any serious projects to work on. Also, how do you determine which technology is worth learning?
Mm,
Oh, okay. Now it's scrolling away.
okay.
It was,
Well,
yeah.
I have a copy of it here thanks to Zen. So thanks Zen. How do you retain and deepen the knowledge once you've acquired it? In particular, if you don't have colleagues you talk to and don't have any serious projects to work on. How do you determine which tech is worth learning? Yeah, geez.
I'll be honest, like I can answer the first part.
Yeah,
The way you retain it is by continuing to use it, right? It's programming in a specific programming language is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And then if you go away from it for a few years, you'll come back and it'll be like, trying to learn how to ride a bike again.
oh
You'll
God.
kind of remember parts of it, but at the same time, it'll be
You're
like,
good.
have things changed since the last time I looked at it? Uh, you know, like I said, if I wanted to go, I did Java for many years, like at least 4 or 5 years. Um, but that was over 10 years ago now. So, yeah, I think I stopped programming in Java in about 2011. Uh, so if I wanted to go back to it, like, I mean, I could still read it. Like, if you give me some Java code, I'll be like, yeah, I understand this. I usually, I'll be able to understand the structure and really most of what an application is trying to do. But if you ask me to then write in Java right now, I'd be like, nope, can't remember. I'd need a lot of help. Um, like I don't even remember the order of method function and method declarations.
I don't know about you more, but like my
Public
usual,
main void.
yeah, my usual short answer to this, which is absolutely still the correct answer, even though it's short, is that I I don't. Um, like it'll come naturally as you start to do projects. To Amar's point, as you do more work in it, yeah, everything you just get better at it. You get better at understanding the little quirks and everything over time. That just happens. There's nothing you can do about that. But for the ones that you don't, you're gonna forget stuff all the time, and it's actually really unrealistic to try and remember all of these things. Um, I would almost go so far as to say that it's bad for you. If you're if like that's your goal to just be the subject matter expert on this language, you have a really specific goal. And most people don't get jobs that fit that. Most people. There certainly are some who do. Like I've, I've met people. There's a company called MathWorks, which is here in Boston, in the Boston area, and they make software for academia, for mathematicians to do formulas and all kinds of crazy things. But I've met a couple guys from there, and the one guy, his job like half of the year is to work on optimizing specific libraries within C++. And like you can sit down with him and you can be like, "Hey, what's the fastest way to concatenate a string?" And then next thing you know, you've been sitting there for 3 hours and he's like created a PowerPoint in front of you because he's like, hold on, I need to explain some things to you. Um, this is how processors do this, and this is important because when the processor does this, then this does this, and then this does this, and then up here there's your code. So if you can get your code to do this, then this thing down here you get to take advantage of. Like those people absolutely do exist. They are amazing. I've there's definitely a part of me that's always wanted to be one of those guys, Amar, but I can't. Like I don't have the attention span. I'm not as smart as they are, just straight up. Um,
So it it's a mixed. I mean, if you do that, right? Like they've been doing that for years, right? It's not like you came in one day and all of a sudden you understood the ins and outs of something, right?
yeah,
I mean, yeah, different people will retain knowledge at different rates. So some people will maybe pick it up quicker and other people will take a little bit longer, again, depending on what their prior experience is. Um, but it's that muscle that they're flexing constantly, right? Like that's the part within the programming world that they're choosing to focus on, right? Um,
yeah,
and it becomes a pattern, right? Like what they're working on, if it's related to the thing that they worked on prior, which related to the thing that they worked on prior to that, it reinforces as well, right? So if you do a lot of very similar sets of applications, you're going to reinforce your knowledge in that particular thing, right? So even if you're then crossing languages, if the general gist of what you're working on is identical, right? You can then talk about, oh, Haskell does memory management like this, or this is the object model that Rust uses when it's compiling, right? Like this is how it structures things, so on and so forth. So if that is your focus space, then as you do it over time, you're going to get good at that, right? And
yeah.
then maybe if you ask them to build you a UI in JavaScript, they'll be like, huh? They'll give you a blank stare. It's like, what are you talking about?
Also, you might hear them say, "Why would I do that?"
Exactly.
it's it's not my
There,
problem.
yeah. I mean, programming has just exploded into so many niches, right? That
God, yeah.
there's not going to be one programmer that can do it all, right? I mean, you have the concept of a full stack developer right now, but even that is such a specified subset. Like when they say full stack, like, well, first they have to define what they even mean by full stack. It's like, do you mean do you mean all the way down from being able to DevOps to configuring your servers to building the back end and building the front end and being able to deploy all of it? Like, is that what you mean by full stack? Because even that is no longer, yeah, you can do it for small things, but you know, it there's just too much.
Yeah.
It's too much.
I guess building on that too, I've had people ask me like, how would you recommend somebody enter the industry now? And I tell them every time, I'm like, I can't answer that question. And they're like, what do you mean? You got into the industry. You're
It was
like you're one
different.
of the people that you did the thing everybody talks about. I'm like, well, first of all, no, I didn't. I did something back, 20 plus years ago now that at the time was possible the way that I did it. Sure, but uh, you can't like generalize it like that. And the thing is, the way that I got in was very like I'm just going to do everything possible. That's why I've worked with so many. I'm like, yeah, I've done cold fusion. Yeah, I've done COBOL stuff. Yeah, I've done this. Yeah, I've done that. People are like, wow. It's like, well, yeah, wow. I guess that's cool, but at the same time, you can't do that today. I don't think you can because I mean, I think about Amar. I think about when we worked together, and when I was interviewing people there, we were looking for very specific things. We're like, no,
Yeah.
we need you to have done Python at a certain level from a technical perspective in order for you to have a real chance of being successful as a developer here. And
Yeah.
like, if somebody had said that to me when I was getting into the industry, I would have been like, yeah, I've done Python, and I would have figured it out because nobody else had done Python that much. Like everything else was new. You couldn't have these crazy requirements that we have today. And yeah, I don't know. It gets really complicated, and it's very frustrating for me because I want to be helpful to anyone that's trying to get in, but I'm pretty sure if I tell you, yeah, do what I did, they're not going to get a job. I, I don't think you're going to get a job if you do what I did. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to figure out where you want to work, what you want to do, now. So there's just so many more options as well, right? Most people nowadays, I mean, and boot camps have really changed the backgrounds of people who are now in the industry or coming into the industry, right? Like not everyone has have that computer science background or that engineering background. I mean, in fact, some of the better programmers I've personally met tend to, not have come from a more formalized background, or do have done a degree in, say, philosophy, right? Like where they really learned about logic and how to think,
Yeah.
and that those thought processes they can apply very easily to programming concepts.
Yeah.
Um, and then for front end dev, I mean, yeah, boot camps are pretty much the way to go nowadays. I know one company, and only just because this was brought up to me recently, but Shopify has a program where they will hire you to but teach you programming.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Uh, let's see. Yeah, it's called the Shopify. Mm, no, where is it? Mm,
Tarndez says, interesting perspective. Definitely took a weird path. I have no degree. Been a dev at one company for 23 years. I've helped a few people into the industry. One kid got a job at a game dev company with no schooling. He had a job at GameStop to go there. He's doing great. And that's awesome to hear. I mean, that's the one thing that I do like about the industry. There's certainly things I don't like about the industry. I know you don't like some things too. He quit a job at GameStop to go there. Hey, that's great. That's like all the people you hear about who they go work at game dev companies as QA, people. They go and they just play the game and test it, but then they're trying to build up their skills at the same time so they can move their way over into development and everything. I love stories like that. And and our industry is one of the easiest ones where you can have that kind of a story, I think. I'm sure it's not the only one, but it's one of the easiest because more than many um, more than many jobs, many industries, we are a lot more concerned with output than we are pedigree.
Mm.
Like your pedigree is less, and it's less important. It's not unimportant, which is why even though I don't have a degree either, I still tell people to go to school if they can stomach it. It does help, uh,
Yeah.
but like it's not the only thing. We're a lot more if I sit down in an interview with you and I start talking to you and I'm like, well, how do you handle something like, a race condition and such, and you clearly understand the concepts and you know how to walk your way through it logically. I don't really care what your degree is in. I don't care if your degree is in philosophy or, liberal arts or whatever. What I care about is that you know how to think through it. Um,
Yep.
and I mean, that's how I got into the industry in the late 90s, by the way, Tyron. That's how I got into the industry. I just did things. And I'm very fortunate that it did work. I very much enjoy being who I am today. But, it's also different today. Today, you have to specialize. Like, I don't think you can be a generalist as much anymore and get into the industry. You can become one once you're in, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. And sorry, there was one other part of this that I actually did want to talk about. Um, how if you don't have colleagues to talk to, don't have any serious projects to work on. I mean, listen, if you're really, really dedicated to learning a language, if you have to, do what I did. Look at other people's code. That story I said earlier about I didn't know why pointers worked for like 7 years. I didn't need to because I looked at enough other people's code and I was like, okay, well, I know what the pattern is to get something to happen. Whatever that something is, Lord if I know, but I know the pattern because I looked at people who did it, and I learned all kinds of things from reading other people's code. I learned new ways to structure code. I learned new ways to um, abstract things away. I remember I went into an interview in 2008 and I sat down with the guy and we had an awesome time. It was like a 3 hour long interview, but like in the middle of it, he pulls out this sheet of questions and he's like, all right, I'm just going to ask you some technical questions to make sure that you know what you're talking about. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to warn you, I'm terrible with terminology because I'm self taught. And he's like, that's okay. We'll work through it. Don't worry about it. So he starts asking me these questions and he gets to like the second or third one, not that far into it, and he goes, what are the advantages of an N tier application? And I looked at him and I was like, uh, I don't know what an N tier application is. And and he was like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. Um, I'll tell you what I'm really looking for is if you understand the utility of it. So I'm going to explain to you what an N tier application is, and then if you can, let's see if you can figure out based off of that what the advantages would be. I'm like, all right, fine, let's go. So he starts describing it, and I go, oh, is that what that's called? Oh, I've been doing that for years. Oh, I do that so you don't have to like mix up what the designer in the front end ever working on and what the back end ever working on. And he's like, okay. So yeah, that's called an N tier application. I'm like, oh, sweet. Well, now I know. I did get that job, by the way. But it's like, you just have a bunch of you just have a bunch of things like that. It's how you learned a try structure. Yeah, I mean, it's there's a difference between not knowing something and not being able to understand something, I guess I would say. Um, but Amar, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
How do you determine which tech is worth learning? This is from Lucenti's question, but I think that one's actually really important. So, how do you determine that?
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, again, it comes down to what it is that you want to do, right? Like what kind of programming do you want to go into as well? Um,
Mm,
so I mean, that's once you kind of have the umbrella for what you want to do, it's like, okay, I want to do front end dev, right? Like I don't want to do anything else. I want to do front end dev.
yeah.
Then that basically opens up the world of JavaScript, TypeScript, HTML, CSS, the foundations, and then the tooling and infrastructure that's built around that, right? Um, if you want to go into systems programming, right? What type of systems programming do you want to do? And do you want to write code that runs in cars, right? Or in airplanes, or do you want to write code that works for IoT devices? Um, you have to kind of figure out what those applications are for the thing that you're interested in, and then focus on the tech that surrounds that. There is, as Andy mentioned, there's like the general purpose learning, right? Like if you do a very high level CS degree, you kind of learn the names for things, which is very useful down the line. Depending on whether you approached it as programming first or education first, right? If you did programming first and you never really delved deeply into the specifics of how things work, or how does a tree work, or how do data structures work, things like that, um, then sort of going back to learn those things and knowing the names of those things kind of helps put things into context and lets you communicate with others, using the same jargon or language. um, Other than that, do you want to work on distributed systems? Do you want to work on web applications? Do you want to work on a back end? Do you want to work lower level on the kernel, right? Those things will really inform what tech it is that you should be learning. Um,
Yeah. I I agree. I've I don't have a lot to add to that. It's especially with all the stuff that we were just talking about, you know, for today, it's got to be really based off of what you want to do. I think you're totally right. Um, once you get in, once you kind of have your career defined, then you start to gain that freedom to, you know, you can define what you want to learn more based off of what you're interested in. But yeah, it was a 3x combo. What the hell is that? I've
you wrote it.
I didn't write anything. It's this stupid bot I don't understand and I'm using. And Lisendi, that's not derailing the screen. The screen.
Stream.
Mm,
Stream.
it's not derailing the stream. This is exactly why we wanted to do this stuff. We want to talk about these things because you know, this is what we like doing.
Yeah.
We like programming and we like talking to people who want to program, do program, etc. So this is all great. Um, okay, what was I doing?
I know. Have we made it past
I'm working
guessing
on the
guessing
guessing
game?
game right now.
Oh, okay.
I realized halfway through I just haven't been doing anything. I've
Well,
just been
same.
yeah.
We've just been
Um,
talking.
been so fortunate. I've worked at all levels from front end to back end kernel. It's been so awesome. That is awesome, Tyron. I mean, by the way, I hope I'm saying your name right as well. It's yeah. I haven't done kernel dev. I've done game dev, like low level engine dev, and I've done financial systems, and then obviously mobile apps and everything in between. But um, kernel dev is one I haven't done much of, although I'm looking to do it. So I have that project I'm doing, which is going to take years. But I'm doing this. Speaking of determining what tech is worth learning, I've decided it is good for me to not just have the concepts. Um, I would also like to be able to say, yes, I've gone from designing logic circuits to soldering logic circuits to building an OS and making all this. Like, I want to do the full thing. And obviously, it's not going to be very good or very feature filled, but I want to at least be able to say that I've gone through the process, and uh, I'm very excited about it. I'm doing that most Thursdays. I think one Friday a month instead of a Thursday, but I don't know. We've only done it like twice, so
Well,
not much of a
I
pattern.
haven't been good at keeping up with it, but I don't know if people can see it. Well, probably not, but behind the space shuttle there, um, there's like some breadboards there.
Ooh.
So, there's this guy on YouTube, Ben Eater, where he builds an 8-bit computer on breadboards. So
Oof.
I have all the pieces.
That's
So
awesome.
now I just gotta start putting it together. And yeah, the other thing that I want to do that I started way back many years ago when I first bought the book, but there's this course. I think they have it on Coursera. It's called The Elements of Computing Systems from First Principles. So it's kind of similar to what you're doing with the Turing Complete, where
Oh yeah.
they go from NAND gates, and then you build up all the way to doing a basic OS and writing a game. I think the course is called From NAND to Tetris.
Oh yeah. Somebody just sent
Yeah,
that to us the other week.
it
And
was
they're
me
like, "Hey,
probably.
what you're talking about is no, it was in a Twitter space."
Oh, okay.
I just realized I probably threw random text over top of everybody's screen. Sorry about that. Yeah. No, as you're saying it, I was like, man, that sounds a lot like this thing. Though I'm gonna have to make sure I say there's one called Nanda Tetris, and then you're like, I think it's called Nanda Tetris. Son of
Well, I have
a.
the
Ugh.
book is over there. It's that
You have a
no,
book?
right there. Yeah, there. That book. That's the NAND to Tetris book. Well, I'll show you.
Oh, I'm looking. I have his thing set up over here. Oh, you you got to tell me. You got to tell me where to buy that. I need that.
I I don't know. I bought it on Amazon years ago
Damn
when
it,
I was
man.
still in Canada. I
What is
mean,
it called?
the elements of computing systems, building a modern computer from first principles. But it's, I mean, if you go to the NAND to Tetris website, like I'm sure they link to the book. But yeah, that's their book. I don't know if they have a newer version of it, but
It
this
looks like they have a
was
version that came out in 21.
recently. Oh, okay, so this one is
So here's the question: does
uh
that mean
this
Thrift Books has it?
I have no idea.
Because Thrift
This
Books
is
is my
2008. This is the 2008 version, so I guess, but I
Thrift Books
probably bought it
does.
sometime in.
Unfortunately, it's less expensive on Amazon this time. Anyway,
Maybe I'll buy the modern version, see if it's different.
okay. Tyrant, I don't want to skip over this, but you said you worked on the Connect's kernel driver to get the stupid Xbox One on feature working. That's awesome. I was we were actually going to use the last time that I was part of a game studio. We were going to use we're going to use the Connect for some stuff. Ugh, that was going to be a time. Anyway, okay. Sorry. So, right, we're doing code here. So here's an interesting one. Oh, good. Okay, so it's supposed to get to that anyway. Let guess U32. Oh, interesting. Oh, okay. So when you do parse, is it parsing it into something based off of what the expected return is?
Could be.
That's weird. let guess u32 equal trim.parse. Expect there's that. Invalid number, let's just say that. Oh, that's interesting. And now we made it immutable, but we switched it to be what I assume is an unsigned, 32-bit integer. Okay. Too low, just right, too high. Okay. It's a project because we had to manage the video buffers. So copy from driver to user code. Frames are so damn big. Copies were just too slow. System allocation down into your games. Oof. See, but that's, I mean, listen, I'm not saying this to diminish the thing. I'm just saying that kind of complexity and everything, that is the kind of stuff that, yeah, hashtag nerd life, that is the big leagues. Big fan of that. Okay, cool. So, all right, so hold on. So this parse thing here. So, okay, well, I'm missing some stuff on the bottom here. So, okay, so I could use it as a generic, but if I use it without the generic thing, it does a type inference from what it's supposed to turn into. That's certainly what it looks like. That's definitely weird. Does Rust have like compile time issues?
What do you mean?
Like, are their compile times kind of rough?
You, I mean, they can be. I know I've seen multiple articles on how to speed up your Rust builds.
Okay.
I know
Or
Rust
slow
Analyzer has actually
compiles,
done
yeah.
some pretty.
Sinocron says
Yeah, no, because
slow
the
compiles.
of the borrow
Oh,
checker.
yeah, and that makes sense. But too, like, the reason I ask is because I mean, thinking about other languages, and I know not supposed to, but thinking about other languages, it's very rare that the the L value, the uh, the left side of the assignment operator, let's say, um, influences the right side, which is
Mm.
what appears to be happening here. Um, so, and I mean, I can certainly see how they would do that, but that has to mean that there's like an extra pass or something for things like that. Just because you'd have to go through and you'd have to kind of like you'd have to evaluate both of these separately and then kind of go back to your parse call here and say, okay, well, I know where you're going as a U32, so I'm going to change you to be the equivalent of, this, which I
Mhm.
believe is what they're doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, Rust Intermediate is what is it? It uses LLVM as its backend.
Okay.
So Rust compiles, or the
Same way
first
C
step
sharp
compiles
works.
into
Oh, okay.
into the LLVM intermediate, whatever they call it, the runtime language that then gets
Loop.
optimized by LLVM.
Okay. So,
Yeah, I imagine all of the generic stuff gets done at compile time, as with most compiled languages that have generics.
So, and again, I have to. This is gonna take me time to remember to actually like verbalize the thoughts that I'm having. So, I'm scrolling down through this and I'm looking through and I'm like, okay, so loop keyword creates an infinite loop. I'm going to assume that there are other types of loops as well, but they must have decided that they don't want to force you to do while true, because then you would be encouraged to accidentally do that from time to time. I can understand that. But okay, so loop is equivalent of like while true. Fine, got it. And then you can add a break statement, and that'll apply to the loop handling invalid input. We talked about this earlier, thanks to Synchron with the match there with OK and error. Got it. So I'm just kind of looking through these, and really now what I'm doing is, at this point, I'm not saying that I know the language, I obviously don't, but I know enough of the language now that I don't have to practice every single thing that's in here. I'm going to look for things that don't look familiar to me, right? And uh, I mean, I don't know, I assume you do it similarly, Amar, but it's kind of like once you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, I don't need to do every single piece of this exercise. Like, I understand what the using statements are. I
Hmm.
understand, I understand what a match is, and I understand mutable versus immutable. Like, cool, got it. We're good to go. But yeah, so I'm just gonna. It looks like I'm done with the guessing game here.
I'm
So
guessing you.
yeah, looks like I'm done with it. Robot 69 monster. What computer are you using? Uh, This is a this is like a half pre-built, half customized CyberPower PC with, I think I have like a 3060 in it. Yeah, I have a 3060 in it and some generation of AMD. It's old enough that it's not compatible with Windows 11. So that's all I can tell you at this point. Um, all right, so good. Let's go to common programming concepts. Yep, great. Oh, there's little things here on the side. That's helpful. Should have noticed that earlier. You can't do that because it's immutable by default. Yep. Constants. Aren't allowed to use mute with consts. They're always immutable. Blah 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 blah. Value must be annotated. Type of the value must be annotated. Okay. We'll figure what that is in a second, I guess. Cons can be declared global, but I'm assuming the way that they say this here, including the global scope, it means that it isn't global by default, um, which is fine. Okay, this all makes sense. So it's saying constants may only be sent to a constant expression, not the result of a value that could only be computed at runtime. Um, yeah, the difference for that, I mean, for me, this is a pretty common thing in a lot of languages that I've used, right? There are things that you can do as const, and there are things that you can't um, at compile time. And if it's something that requires like user input or something like that, usually you can't make it a const. Of course, there's something like a class constant, but I guess that's different here. Errors in seconds. Yep, got it. Shadowing. Okay. Shadowing is overwriting a variable and changing its type, I guess. Or, well, I guess it would be changing its value, which could include the type.
Hmm.
Because they changed the type as well. in the guessing game. Got it. Oh, we have len. Okay. Len instead of length or count. Good to know. But that's what they did. Also, there's no let. Okay. Whatever. Sure, that's something that I'll trip over a few times, but that's okay. Rest is statically typed. Got it. Type annotation like this. Are you forced to use that space after the colon?
What space after the colon? Oh, that. I think. Well, Rust Pump will do it anyways.
Rust Phantom.
Yeah.
Okay. Nope, not Unreal Engine, please. I don't use my mouse very often, so that's being shown here tonight. Okay, scalar type. Got it. Integers. Floating points. F64, F32. Boolean is bool. Got it. Was that just an emoji put in there? That's cool.
UTF-8.
Yeah. Compound types. Tuples and arrays. Alright. And now I understand why the empty parens. Okay, got it. Yeah. Array type. Got it. You do arrays as how? What the fuck is that? 5 elements that will all be set to the value 3 initially. That's a nifty little shortcut. Okay, still just going through. Again, I mean, none of this stuff. None of this is like hugely different from any other language that I use. I mean, okay, so like, I don't think I've ever seen that before, but I've seen a lot of variations on array initialization already through different languages. So whatever, this is just a new one. Okay, so moving on, functions. I bet they are prevalent. Great. Okay. Rust doesn't care where you define your functions, only that they're defined somewhere. So again, pulling off of old habits with C and C++, for example. C and C++, it is important where and when you define a function or class signature, because if you don't put it in the right place or don't reference it in the right order, the compiler will just choke on itself. So that's fine. Good to know. Section 4 starts to get rough. Ownership and borrowing always makes my head hurt. Oh, great, we're almost there. I'm excited. I have a home language. What is your home language? Ooh. Amar, what's your home language?
Like my default go-to right now?
I guess. Tarn says, that is when I just code a fun project, I always go to it. What is your home language? So.
It'll either be Python or Go right now. Yep. Probably 60% towards Python, 40% towards Go, because I haven't done as much Go recently as I have been doing Python. So yeah, 60-40, Python and Go.
Okay. Yeah, I used to be able to answer that. I have 100% refused to learn Python. Python's easy. You don't have to worry about Python. My home language, I mean, obviously it depends on where I'm doing things. If I'm doing it on the web, I almost always start with PHP. I've been doing PHP since 1999. It's a very natural thing for me. It's getting a little weird though with non-web based ones. Go has really risen up a lot, which CTD can take pride in that. He's definitely the one who's caused that to happen. Um, I don't like everything about Go, but it's kind of hard to argue against Go as at least a starting point for most things. I know that I can do specialized stuff better in C++ if I needed to, but I mean, why? I know that I can do it quickly in Go, and if it got to the point where it needed to be crazy optimized, well then yeah, I would just rewrite it in C++. But I don't know. It's I really like C sharp too. C sharp is just a fun language for me because it's like C, C++, but forgiving. It doesn't it doesn't let you do a lot of the crazy stuff, so it just kind of it casually is like, whatever. You can do whatever you want. No big deal. So I don't know. It's a complicated answer
Yeah,
for me.
you can definitely go your entire life without learning Python. It's just that where I happen to work, we use Python. And
A
fortunately,
little
the
bit.
team that I'm on is the only team that uses Go as well. So, uh, yeah, that's basically my daily exposure in terms of languages right now is Python and Go. Um, yeah, in the past I've worked with, at some point I would have said, yeah, my go-to was definitely Java for a long time. And then for a while, after learning Java, it was Scala. So then my go-to language became Scala for a while. Uh, and I was doing Python in between those as well. So Python has probably been like the longest continuous programming language that I've ever worked with.
Hmm,
Um, yeah,
I see. Okay, so you use the single arrow. I don't know what to call that versus the equals arrow operator, but you use that to denote the return type, and then you just
the
end
the
with that.
dash arrow for the type
Yeah.
annotation. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Fortunately, as a dev at Microsoft, C Sharp is probably adopted. Yeah,
The
I
the
love C Sharp.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
think I helped someone do a little bit of C sharp programming once.
Hmm.
They were they were in computer engineering, and it was like my roommate while I was doing a co-op term there. And it was like he knew I was a programmer, so or I was doing software development. He was like, "Hey, do you know C sharp?" I'm like, "No, not really." He's like, "Can you help me anyways?" I'm like, "Sure." I think at that point, like I knew enough Java, C, and C++, where C sharp, like most of the syntax looked familiar.
Yeah.
hadn't worked with .NET at that point, but obviously when you're working with Java at that time, there was no .NET Core. It was, I think, like .NET 3 maybe or
Oh yeah.
3.5.
Yeah. Okay. That was
Uh,
a minute ago.
yeah, no, that was it was quite a while ago. And I was like, okay, yeah, and just do a quick lookups of like how do you do this thing in this language, and it's like, okay, yeah, sure. And I managed to help him in about an hour or so. So with a language I'd never seen or looked at. But yeah, it was familiar enough.
Oh, that's interesting. So with loops, I can label the loop and use that to break
Mm.
out of different nests of loops at different points. That's kind of useful. It's kind of like the old label stuff. Go to loop.
I found the Shopify thing.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so in Canada they have a thing called Dev Degree, and I think in the US they have something called Make School. So like
Make
shop
school. Okay.
makeschool.com and devdegree.ca. So
Okay. Ah, there we go. While.
Oh, while's gonna show up eventually.
For
Actually, I'm just looking at the Appendix A right now, which is their programming keywords. This is what I love about Go, actually, is that they have 25 keywords, I think, in the language. 25 or 27. Just so few.
just a small amount, yeah.
Very, very tiny amount. And
Okay.
even with the new generic stuff, they aren't actually extending the keywords.
No, we just use the goddamn square brackets.
Well, no, but even like the any, um,
Yeah.
it's oh, what's the term for it? Like it's basically a global alias, like a they define it in the global namespace. So you could technically redefine it, which is the same for all of their type annotations. So like their types. Um, so you can change those out. You can make the way you could do it in Python 2, where you could make true and false were just global constant. Well, not constants. They were just there in the global namespace, and so you could redefine them. Python 3 at some point fixed that, so you can't redefine true equals false. But you can still do that in Go.
Well, why not, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Ownership is a set of rules that governs how a Rust program manages memory.
That's the part that takes time wrapping your head around, or so I've heard.
Hmm. I know what the stack and the heap are, so I'm gonna just pass over that. To be clear, I always mix them up, but it's fine.
Stack is within your scope. Heap is escaping out of your
Yeah.
function scope.
Which you would think I would remember every time, but it's like spelling the word exaggerate. I know that I've done it wrong when I do it wrong, but I can't ever stop myself from doing it wrong the first time.
I can't remember if it has two G's or not.
Yeah. But I do as soon as I write it. If I write it, I'll be
Mm.
like, no, that's not right. Although sometimes you get stuck in a little loop of your own. You're like, wait, maybe it's two of both. No, wait, hold on, stop, hold on, I got to
Let's
try it.
test.
And then you just
How
take
many
them
how
all
many
out. You're
C's
like,
and
well, that's not right, but here we go.
how many C's and S's in success?
My struggle with Rust was trying to change my OOP ideas a bit, as it really doesn't work well with the way the borrow checker works. Okay. First, let's take a look at the ownership rules. Keep these rules in mind as we work through the examples that illustrate them. Each value in Rust has a variable that's called its owner. There can only be one owner at a time. When the owner goes out of scope, the value would be dropped. This makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Wait until we get into traits.
I can't wait for trace to come to. Wait, no, it's concepts that are coming to C++. Never mind. I misspoke. Um, scope. Scope of some variables. Yeah. How do we know each other? We actually work together at. Can I say where we work together? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I already showed the logo, so I guess
Yeah.
we worked together at G Adventures, and it was my first time being an engineering manager. It was my first two times. I
Uh,
s- I started
that's
three
a
months
story.
before the pandemic started, so G Adventures is a travel company.
Yeah.
Fairly predictable what happened next. But I got hired back like 2 months after I got laid off, which was very flattering. Um, And I worked there for what, like another 5 months, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It was good times.
Yeah.
We had good times, and he can't get rid of me now. So
Nope.
he tries, but
Do I?
I'm like a bad rash. I just show up.
Oh
Hey, what's up? You
God.
want to go watch a movie?
Uh,
I don't think I've ever
no.
described myself as a bad rash, but
No, I mean, I
but
wouldn't
now I can
describe you
say
as
I
a bad
have.
rat, but I mean, I guess if you want to shout it out to the rest of the world.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we're way past that already.
Oh
So
yeah. Mm. And I'm just scrolling through chapter 3.
okay, so string literals and string are different. Got it.
Oh man, I'm trying to remember now what it was in Java. I think it was like while do and do while.
Yeah.
Those two things. Like you do while if you want to evaluate the condition first, then you do while if you want to execute that code block at least once and then evaluate the condition after. Oh man.
All
Nice thing
right.
about Go is there's no while. It's just for.
Yeah.
The for does everything.
It's certainly an opinion on how
Mm-hmm.
to simplify
Yeah.
things.
Yep. Okay. Ownership. What time is it?
It's
Oh
almost
wow.
11.
Almost 11.
We should probably wrap up soon,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, we started around what, 8:30 ish?
no, no, it was 8:30. Yeah. No, it was
I mean,
8:45.
was it? I
Yeah.
mean, Twitch will tell you how long the stream's been going.
That's a good point.
Let's see.
Where would it tell me that?
2 hours and 15 minutes. Just underneath the follow button on your page.
I have it in OBS at 2 hours 15 minutes. So I started a bit before you, which I guess that makes sense. We were working.
Well, no, I'm looking at yours. If I'm looking at mine, it says 2 hours and 8 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
Yeah, it took me a little bit of time because I think you had your little
I had
pre-streaming
mine
soon
sorted
thing.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Stack in the heap. Does anyone know what the stack and the heap are?
Just come to Seattle, then you have 3 more hours. Well, the problem, Tyron, is that I have 3+ more hours anyway. I don't really get to sleep at normal people times. If I get to bed
True.
before 6 a.m. on a night, it's a good night.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I'm hoping to get some normal sleep today. At least tomorrow's a holiday. So,
I didn't know that until Saturday.
ah.
I totally forgot.
Yeah, no. I was reminded at work because tomorrow is, at least in Ontario, is Family Day. So people get a day off there.
Oh, is that why? I was wondering because it's not President's Day up there.
No. Yeah, they figured that it was way too long between New Year's and Easter
Hmm.
or March break or whatever. So they were like, well, I mean, Valentine's Day people don't actually get a day off, and it's more of an obligation than a holiday or a celebration. So it's like, let's add an actual holiday and we'll give people Family Day. But not every province does it. I think different provinces do it differently.
Got it.
Ownership rules. Each value in Rust has a variable that's called its owner.
So far, all of this makes sense, but I'm very
I think,
cautious because everybody seems to be like, "Oh, it's gonna get you. It's gonna get you."
oh no, it will get you. I know when I was doing a few years ago when I was learning Rust at that time, I was doing it with Advent of Code. Um, and I was constantly having to fight fight the borrow checker. Is like, no, I want to be able to mutate this value, but like I want to send it somewhere else and like potentially mutate that as well, you know? And it's like, no, you can't do that because it's already owned by this other thing that holds a mutable reference to it. So I think at that time it was like Rust 124, 125. So it was a while ago.
Okay, so all right, so it's like RAII in C++.
Hmm.
Got it. That might be why so far I'm like, yes, this makes sense.
What is it? Resource acquisition is initialization.
That's the one.
Yeah. I still
That's
don't know what that means. Like I know what individually the words mean, but it's like I understood it in practice. Like, you know, when I was doing C++ code, I was like, okay, yeah, the initializing the resource is getting a hold of it. And then it's like once you, you know, then at the point where you free it, it's like it's gone.
yeah.
You can't have access to something before it's been initialized, essentially.
Lots of stuff can own something for Yeah, okay, this makes sense. You just have to be very explicit. It's annotations to tell the compiler how you intend the variables to be used. Okay. So, okay, so S1, yeah, alright. Take the 341, see what's happening to the string under the covers. The string is made up of 3 parts, shown on the left. Pointer to the memory, length, and capacity. Gosh, that sounds familiar. Hey, thanks for the follow, VMA. And Tyron. Appreciate it. Um, Pointer line capacity. Gosh, that sounds so familiar, doesn't it?
So familiar.
This, I guess this is like the one moment where I get like just the briefest of advantages because I started in C, not C++.
Hmm.
Like I had to go through the RAII process for me was it took a little bit because I was like, what? I'll free it when I'm damn well ready. No, you won't, because then everything will die. Oh,
Uh,
okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, and this is like okay, yeah. So far so good. This is good. I'm liking this. Double free error, sure. Interesting. Ooh. So it is at least in this case, it's basically saying that this is that one owner thing. So since both strings would point to the same memory, only one of them can actually own that pointer.
hmm.
So the other one just automatically. Mmm. Okay. Well, I can already see how this would trip you up. Right? Like I can see how it will trip me up from time to time because it's kind of it's fairly reasonable to like assign something as a pointer to another and then expect to be able to update both of them so you can
Hmm.
like reference the old one elsewhere. But then with the way they do this to avoid that double free error, they don't let you do that. So
Yeah.
as soon as you pass something along, you're done.
Yep. That
Okay.
original thing no longer owns it.
Unless I'm at, yep, deep copy. Okay.
And this is where you get the pass by value versus pass by
It's known as a
reference. And
move. So I'm curious. So if this came out in 2010, when did the move operator come to C++? Was the move operator in C++? Um, yep,
came after.
it came after. So it would have been in 11. I I'm not sure if that means that it was inspired by Rust necessarily,
Mm.
but if nothing else, we can at least say that Rust did it theoretically either at the same time that 11 was considering doing it, or C++ did it because Rust did it.
Mm.
But yeah, no, so okay, this does explain a couple more things to me though, because though I can see how this will trip me up, this is the same sort of thing. Like as I've gotten used to using move as a mechanism in C++, which I'm still not fully used to. Like
Mm.
I understand the syntax and everything, but it's kind of one of those things where you're like, yeah, it just takes time. But it is very similar. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's like when you go from an imperative or procedural style of programming to
Yeah.
concurrent. Requires to wrap your head around things
There's a clone.
a little bit differently. Yep, there is a clone.
Okay. The clone is deep copy. All right. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Yeah, I can see myself tripping over all this quite a bit, but thankfully, I guess because I've kind of stayed up to date with everything for C++, I'm not totally lost.
No.
All right. But you're
I mean,
definitely
in
gonna
terms
have
of
to get used to like you're definitely gonna have to get used to like just passing variables off and then
mm,
receiving them back as
yeah,
a way to say, okay, well, give it back to me now, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so the clone basically creates another copy in the heap.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess it's at the stack or scope level where things get dropped very quickly as soon as they're moved. But the move is kind of implicit, right? Like there's no explicit move operator. It's just the reassignment is the move.
Yeah, this all makes sense. This is we should you know what we got to do? We got to start like a counter or something as we're doing this. Maybe I can figure out how to add that to this overzealous bot that I have. So that whenever we notice that I've fallen victim to this,
To the
we
borrow
can
trap.
yeah, we can just increment it and be like, ah, there's one. Okay. Hmm,
Borrow trap one.
it's like returning a move. Got it. It's a move. What bot am I using? I'm trying out. I'm sure I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, but uh, Sogibot or Sojbot, Sojbot.
So GI?
No, SOGE
Oh, SOGE.
bot. I grabbed it because it's a it's an open source one, and I can run it locally in uh, Docker container. So it's honestly it's pretty good. I just haven't well, I haven't learned how to use it yet. As
Is it? Okay.
as
Well,
Lou has figured out.
yeah, I'm just trying
Mix it
to
up bot.
pull
Oh,
up
I'm
that
not familiar with
user.
that one.
Trying to figure if the main developer on that bot is Japanese or not. Like his,
Because then
I
it's
want to, I
Sogi
want to
versus
guess.
Soj.
Then, yeah,
Yeah.
like it's SOGEHIGE, and that really feels like Soge Hige.
I'm not going to pretend to be able to know that.
Well, no, I'm just guessing, right? Like if
Yeah.
it is Japanese, then it's Soge Hige, right? But nope, he does not look Japanese on
Okay.
his Twitter.
He does not look Japanese? Okay. Well,
He very much does not look Japanese on his Twitter.
okay.
Although he does have One Punch Man as his Twitter banner.
Hey, we got references to save us. Yay. References. Yeah. Hey, that operator's consistent. Yeehaw. I'm not gonna. I'm not going to get into the depths of this because, like, give, given my troubles learning about pointers and references in C and C++, uh, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go play with it a little bit, and as I learn how it works in practice, I will figure out what it what the patterns are and everything. Apparently, that's the best way for me, and then eventually, 7 years from now, I'll learn how to explain it to somebody else.
Uh, yeah, when I was trying to get into the learn about the Python interpreter,
hmm
that was kind of my it moment of like, okay, why is everything in Python that's on an object or like on an instantiated thing like referenced with self as the first argument? I was like,
Right.
oh, self is just the pointer, the underlying pointer that
I,
C the C interpreter, the Python interpreter uses to know what it's talking about.
so the day that I figured out, the day that everything finally clicked for me, I should say, with pointers in C and C++, was when somebody showed me that you can use a pointer to an array to go outside of the array. And they're
Mm.
like, yeah, if you do it and you go beyond it, and there's something there in memory, it'll work, which is why you have to be careful. And I was like,
Well, work is undefined behavior.
how do you mean it goes out of the array? They're like, well, it's not in the array. It's just pointing at the array's memory. And then
Yep.
like it was one of those things where if it was a movie, there'd be all those like flashbacks and everything, and be like, oh, it makes sense. I get it now. It has nothing to do with the type. It's just memory, and yeah. And then
Stack
ever since then, I've been
Overflow.
fine. Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh no shit. Well, hot damn, that actually makes a lot of sense now. That explains a few things.
Yeah. Like that's why I kept getting seg faults.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like that's the operating system uh telling you you're trying to access things you shouldn't.
All right. So, at any given time, you can have either one mutable reference or any number of immutable references.
Hmm.
References must always be valid.
So that's going back to the one read sorry,
One
One
write,
write,
many
many
read.
read.
Building an emulator is a really great project for learning how CPUs,
Mm.
GPUs, etc. work. I'm sure it is. Maybe I'll do that after I build my terrible computer. It's gonna be so bad, and it's gonna take me years to do. But
What are you gonna build it in?
I don't know. Dude, we're still learning logic gates. Like,
No, I know, but like, I mean, people have done it in Minecraft.
I know. Yeah, and actually, we talked about that in the. So we did 2 Twitter Spaces before we switched over to Twitch.
Mm.
And like the second one, this guy came on and he's like, "Here's what you need to do. You need to go into Minecraft. It's going to teach you everything you need to know." And we're like, um,
Redstone.
I'm sure that it would. Like I've followed guides to build things before in Minecraft, but oh
Yeah.
god, I'm sorry, Tyron. I don't. I
Whoa.
gotta figure that out.
That's a
Oh
lot of
no.
message deleted by moderator. Well, I mean, at least you got the stream history, and for some reason, it still keeps on showing up in
All right.
your little chat window.
Yeah. Hold on. Hold on.
Let's touch the
Where
stream.
we're gonna figure this out.
Is GameLad a Game Boy emulator in Rust?
I think that's what he was talking about before he got destroyed by the bot.
Moderated to heck.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's in C++. Deuce Kington. Deuce Kington? Yeah.
Anti-haterade? What is that?
Is that a bot configuration?
Here we go. Here we go. Caps filter. No, don't enforce that rule. Oh wait, that's for... Okay, okay. I'm figuring it out, everybody. It's okay, I got this. Save changes. Metallic me filters. No, I don't care. Don't enforce the rule. Here we go. Here we go. I have found them. All is well in just a moment. Um, we're going to keep the spam filter on. Because I imagine that means you've sent way too many at a time. Okay. Okay. Who wants to try sending a link? Somebody give it a shot. We got this. I turned it off for viewers. I'm nervous now. Somebody sent a link. We got it. We got it. We did it, everybody. Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. Fantastic. Don't make me regret this, please. Okay.
Said no one on the internet ever.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Where were we?
So the
References and
one thing that I
borrowing.
didn't notice is I didn't see where it says borrowing. We're just gonna creating a reference is called borrowing. There we go.
Mhm.
So you can borrow if it's immutable, you still can't change. If it's mutable, you can, but you can still only do one mutable reference at a time.
Yep.
Hold on. No, the link wasn't deleted, Zen. I still
No,
see
I
your
see it.
link to google.com.
Yeah, I see it. Google.com. Oh, yeah. Capital W. No, that's from Zen.
Yeah, I still see it.
Yeah, I see it.
We're good. We're good. Okay, so all right, so this makes sense. It means you just kind of, unless it's, if it's anything that's going to change something, you have to pay attention to how many times you allow it to be changed at once, right? It's the basic.
Yeah. I mean, that's where the Rust compiler will save you as well, right? Like if you try to create multiple borrowed references or multiple references, it won't let you, right? Um, but I guess the issue becomes of like, okay, you borrow it, you give it to something, and then you try to borrow it again to the thing that you passed it to.
Okay. Is this more frequently a problem with like async stuff? As a genuine question. I'm just curious.
Mm, I mean, yeah, that is definitely a consideration in async programming. Um,
Lucenti, Tyron, do all of you see your links as well?
no, there, yeah.
There's like way too many layers to this.
Yeah, Tyron says he sees everything.
Okay. Okay.
Feels
Also,
like Zen
what
feels
the
like
heck?
Zen is trolling.
No, she sent me a picture. It really did say
Oh,
deleted for her.
oh, it did.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to I don't know. Maybe you have to refresh the stream. Maybe the bot. Maybe you have two versions of the bot running, one with and one without the rules, and they still have to
It's
reconcile.
it's just the one container. That's not possible. It's it's like running on the servers behind me that I don't think are powered on. I'm like, what?
Oh, what are those magical data structures? Are replication oh conflict free?
What?
Oh, what are they? Replicated conflict yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Conflict free replicated data types.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna read about the slice type. I think I'm gonna say that I'm done for tonight.
After you're done reading about the slice.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I'm curious if the slice is similar to the slice and go or different. Let's see, you got dangling
They're different.
pointers, dangling references.
Yeah. It's kind of
This is
like, you know what?
slice.
It reads kind of like it's a combination of slices and go, but also semaphores. As like, I don't know. Have you ever used semaphores in
Hmm.
async programming? Okay.
Yep.
It feels like a
Mute,
little bit of that and a little bit of,
mutexes and semaphores.
yeah,
Those
and
were
critical sections. Don't
key
forget those.
key concepts in our operating systems courses.
If you're staying in process, crit secs are
Mm.
greatly preferred over a mutex.
Yeah, you could do that in multi-threaded Java programming. You do that with synchronized. Go, you would generally try to control that with a channel. So if you have some critical section that needs to be sequential, then you'd ideally try to put a channel in between it and then control it with a mutex.
Okay, array of bytes, got it. Ooh, we get iterators.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Yeah, all of this stuff is feeling very Scala to me, at least just in terms of
I'm
syntax.
assuming that this be quote space quote is that's
Probably
how you create a byte string or byte character.
that would be my guess.
Okay.
That would be my guess, but yeah, if you expand the hidden code, um,
What?
that section that you were looking at.
Oh, I didn't even
So
know it did that.
yeah, they have two things. You can either copy or hit the I for looking at the hidden code
What's this?
around.
Oh, and it runs it.
Hmm. Yeah, the play button.
Ah, that's clever. I like that. All right. So fine. Yeah, great, because now we've changed ownership on S. So, or we've moved ownership and blah, 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 blah. Got it. Even though that's a reference, so it should just be borrowing it?
Who's borrowing
Yeah,
it?
because we didn't
First,
return it.
the first word function.
Yeah, the first word doesn't return the
It's
string, it
returning
returns
the
the
length,
subset. Yeah, okay.
the length of S. Yeah. So
Okay.
word will equal the number, the whatever that subset is, I guess. Okay, yeah. So item here is each. Well, is it? Yeah, I guess so. If it's treating it as bytes, then you're not in UTF territory. So I wonder if you have U as a prefix
No, not sure.
Unicode.
Okay, this makes sense. So, and you can create a reference to just part of the string. Pointer to the byte at index 6. Okay. These are equal.
Oh,
Great. Got it. And then that sure makes sense.
well, I take um I don't know the word, but whatever. Word is their comment, their last one there. Word is now totally invalid. I mean, not really.
Well, no, it's just marooned.
I mean, no, I mean the value is still there. Word is equal to whatever that number was. I mean, it's just
Well, so, but
it's
the way
it's
that
it's
they're.
it's not invalid code wise. You've lost the semantic meaning for what word actually means, but does that make it invalid? Not really. Oh, there they are. Slice operators. Square brackets.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so what Tyron says, that's exactly what Go slices are as well, because slices are backed by arrays underneath,
Right.
but they're essentially pointers to sections of an array. And they also have length and capacity. And I guess there's a difference between the string type and the stir type.
Yeah. Stir is a string slice. Well,
Yeah.
and stir.
Hmm.
Or amp.
Yeah.
Stir. So I guess here's my question though. So okay, if you do this, got it. This is a way to turn the thing. Looking at this, okay,
Sorry.
so it is. So yeah, sorry. Looking at the part down. What is this? Code does not compile. Oh well, yeah, I know. That was the point. Um, so let mute s is string from literal hello world. Word equals first word. A mutable reference to s, right?
Yeah.
And then so before we call s clear, we word is a reference to a slice
Hmm.
from s.
From S. Yep.
So s stays there, it's fine, and a slice of s is in word. Got it.
Hmm.
Um, then s clear is obviously trying to change s while there's
Which
still a reference,
to a
an immutable
slice.
reference to a slice of s.
Yep.
Okay.
Which is word.
I mean, okay. This is honestly what it feels like is it feels like this is one of those things where it's just going to beat a bad habit out of you anyway.
Hmm.
Because I mean, you should. There's not many languages you should be doing this in anyway, right? Like, no, there's not many you should be doing this in. If you're doing something that returns a reference to a whole or a part of another,
Hmm.
you should not ever be then clearing the thing that's being referenced. So this catches you when you do it, which is
Yeah.
nice. That is nice. I can also see though how that would get aggravating if you're very used to doing that. But it's
Yep.
yeah. But I'm gonna have to make a little counter or something for when we'll have to make like just a couple different
Well,
ones. So
Rust allows you to get around it. They do have the unsafe keyword. So you can
good.
wrap stuff in unsafe and then be like,
Well, because
here,
sometimes you do
here,
have to do
here be
things
dragons.
unsafe.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
That's
But it's like
the the
you can
reason
you can
C will never go away is because C is just always unsafe, which sounds bad, but there are moments where that really is the only choice. Ask, ask what's his face from oh what the hell? Hold on, I gotta go. I have his books. Hold on. Yep, there he is. Michael Abrash.
mm,
He is the guy who he's got 3 books that are like Zen of this is Zen of graphics programming. There's Zen of code optimizations and Zen of assembly, I think.
okay.
But if you've ever heard of the thing in Quake, with the oh my god. I
I'll
gotta
just
look it
say
up
I
now.
haven't because I probably haven't.
Okay, well, it's a very famous thing, and it's called the
They're good.
the inverse square root.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
in Doom, wasn't it?
no, it's in Quake.
Was it in Quake? I thought fast inverse square root was a Doom thing.
No, it's a Quake 3 algorithm, and as far as I know, Michael Brash is the one who did it. Um, and there's some unsafe. Like, what did you say? There be dragons. There very
Hmm.
purposefully are dragons here, and that's why Quake worked. Ah, it's good times. Okay. Um, what was I doing? All right. Okay. So I understand this, and yes, Tyron, we in our books, we love our books. I I don't have enough bookshelves for all my books, and that's okay with me. It's an excuse to get more bookshelves.
I thought it was John Carmack who did it.
Carmack didn't do inverse square root though.
Or fast inverse square root.
Fast inverse square root, whatever.
It was the one with the
Hardenberg circles versus optimized Hardenberg circles. Oh, nope, I need to put this away. Okay, getting distracted. Okay. String literals are slices. Oh, string literals are slices. Oh, I see. I see. Okay. Oh, okay. So you can do string literals, and you can pass a string literal both a string and a string literal. I'm not sure how I feel about restation, though. A more experienced restation. I get it. I'm just not sure how I feel about it. I might not like it.
just what
Deref
are
coercions.
what are
Crustaceans?
crustaceans? Yeah,
Like
crabs,
crabs.
lobsters.
Yeah, I think, right? Is the crab the logo?
Yeah,
I didn't even notice. No, it's a cog.
no, that's no, but the little crab
Is
is
it the
the little
mascot?
yeah. Is it called Rusty? I don't know.
Rusty.
I don't know. Ferris. Sorry, Ferris is his name. Ferris is the mascot or the unofficial mascot. I don't know.
Okay.
Is Ferris.
Okay.
I guess also Bueller. I don't know.
Bueller. Bueller.
Bueller.
Gotta love it. Okay. Um, deref coercions. I just want to peek. So, okay. Uh, this is great. Talking about how I learned things again for a second. So I went here and I see this deref coercions, and like deref coercions is obviously it's obviously a little bit of a higher level concept, I guess. Um, but this is very useful to me. So if I look at deref coercions, so I just learned a couple things just by reading this. I don't know exactly how they work in the language yet, but I know that they exist because I'm assuming now that this language probably does some kind of is it overloading, the one where if you use the different types, it's considered a different signature? Yes, it is
Yeah.
overloading.
Yep.
Another thing I often mix up is overloading and overriding, and I shouldn't, but much like exaggerate, there is no solution. Um, but okay, so but I was saying, it's I read this. I read this thing and it says convenience. The rest performs an arguments. Only works on types that implement the deref trait. Converts type into a reference to another type. For example, deref coercion convert string to string literal because string implements the deref trait such that it returns string literal. So that one sentence right there, just by going off and reading this randomly, I already answered a question that I would have had eventually because I'm like, well, okay, they have to have some form of method overloading or something. If
Mhm.
they can, if the way that this is worded is accurate, which I tend to believe it would be,
Should be.
yeah, then that tells me that. And this is like one of those things. This is an advantage I get as a result of knowing other languages, right? I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, cool, got it. I know what you mean here. You're talking about overloading. I don't need it right now, but now I know in my head that this language has that. So, no, I haven't gotten to traits yet. No.
We're technically on chapter 4, so
Yeah.
traits are little bit of a ways off. Not too far though.
Okay. So next up will be structs, but I think I'm gonna call this for myself for the evening here. Mm.
Cool. Do you want to talk about how we're going to implement the mud?
Yeah, we might as well, right? Um,
Is it going to be online, networked?
Thanks, Lou. And thanks for the follow, CMSI Mike. I'm just gonna call you Mike. Um, and sorry, what'd you say, Amar?
Is it going to be networked, like online
Yeah.
multiplayer?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be online.
Yeah. So we're going to
Um,
need a
I think we'll do it.
server and client.
Yeah. Well, you don't need a client, so that's kind of the nice thing about doing a mud. That's one of the things I like about doing a mud. You really
Mm.
just have to make the server, and as long as someone has anything like a Telnet client, I use something called Mudmaster or
Mm.
WinTinTin. As long as you have these things, you can connect to them. I should have done this because I can actually show what muds are. But as long as you have one of these, that's how you connect to it. We don't have to do jack.
Yeah.
Use Tiny Fugue Tyrant. Nice. I was a Zmud guy growing up when I wasn't using Telnet, but it was fun. Like every time I got a job somewhere, I'd go to work and they're like, yeah, no, you can't really install anything on the computer. But all of them had Telnet, so I was like, oh no, I guess I can't play my games. Anyway, um, yeah. So really, all that we're doing, Amar, is server. So that's a nice thing. We don't
Yeah.
have to worry about anything except, hey, does it send text out over a
Mm.
socket to people? Um, but yeah, it's I I don't think we're gonna do. Obviously, we're not gonna put time into doing like you could do a lot of cool stuff with protocols and everything to enable special features like there are later protocols that allow you to trigger audio and stuff like that in the mud clients. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to keep that really simple. And I think we focus on getting as quickly as possible through um, non-blocking sockets, asynchronous programming to do background threads for things like ticks and everything, game ticks,
Mhm.
and then just text formatting as it goes over a socket. So
Cool.
I think the biggest thing is we got to see what Cassie wants to do, Lady
Yeah.
Moffat, whatever. Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to say her name. But yeah, we got to see what she wants to do. But I mean, it's for you and I. We're just going as fast as we can toward. Hey, we have a non-blocking server. that can do things in the background and periodically tell people.
Mm.
So
Cool.
yeah, I don't know if you and I'll have to make decisions like whether or not we want it to be um, like the classic VNum system or like a 3D world space. So the classic VNum system is you just have numbers that represent rooms, but there's no physicality to it. Like
Right.
there's no size to them. It's just what you say in the description. You're like, this is a vast lobby. And then the next one, which is the exact same size in memory, is a closet.
Tiny.
Yeah.
And it only takes you one spot, one
Yep.
one move to get to
But
either
they're all
one.
equal.
Yeah.
But there's a crate for it now. Well, so here's the thing, Tyron. I mean, at the very least, I think we want to stop me here if I'm speaking out of turn, Amar, but I think what we want to do is we want to see what's involved in like implementing it ourselves, right?
Mm.
Um, it really shouldn't be that bad. I'm not saying we'll create one that's as good as something that somebody who knows better than us would do. That's not the purpose of this. Um, it's more, can we do it and what kind of things do we run into? Yeah, cross-platform stuff. I mean, I've built non-blocking servers so many times in Windows and Linux and everything like in C++ that I'm pretty confident, but I don't know if Rust is going to destroy all of that for me or what. So, I'm curious. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just doing a quick search on crates.io for mud. There's this thing called Hypermud, but seems like it's not been updated recently.
Do we have a Discord? Not like one dedicated to the two of us. Um, I have one for my augmented reality business. I can give you that.
Holy crap, 13 billion downloads?
Excuse me?
I mean, that's what the page says.
What?
No, the crates.io, the homepage. 13.6 billion downloads. My God, how much energy does the internet use?
It's best not to look things like that up.
How does one even begin to estimate?
Have I seen the Tilt 5 glasses? That sounds familiar, but
Yeah, it seems like this Hypermud project is like split into.
yes, I did just see these.
Hmm? What
God,
are
they
those?
are hideous, aren't they?
What is that?
Tilt 5. It's like
Ugh.
as
Okay.
best as I can tell, it's like, and I say this not to be mean, Tyron. I'm just coming at this from the perspective of someone who spends a lot of time working in it though. This is like a poor man's HoloLens. That's kind of what it looks like. They look really bad. I know that the Tilt 5 has the you have to have that pad down, which actually makes a lot of sense because that pad makes it a lot easier for them to render things um, consistently without like all of the extra sensors. So, yeah, that's
How
smart.
much is one of those things?
I don't know. Let's find out.
Oh, it just says
Uh,
reserved now.
the
There's
kit
no
is
359.
359. Did you work on HoloLens? Oh, I'm jealous. No, I'm not jealous. I'm envious. I don't want to take that from you. I just wish that I also could have done that. I'm hoping that someday we start picking up a lot of users, and I mean we're very early, but someday I hope Microsoft is like, hey, can you make that work on our HoloLens? And I'll be like, yes, we can. Ugh. Oh, that's awesome. Um, but yeah. Anyway, okay. So, Amar, did I answer your question as to how we're gonna build this, or the
Yes.
question?
Yeah.
Okay. So, hopefully soon you and I will be on here again doing this. I'm probably going to do another session, maybe even tomorrow, and I'm just going
Yeah.
to keep going through this. But I'm only ever going to work on Rust when I'm streaming.
Yeah.
So
Makes
Um,
sense.
I don't know that you and I will always be doing it because I know our schedules don't always match up. Um, but I imagine we can at least coordinate outside of these streams.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
okay.
Yeah, and then the hard part comes the story.
Well, that's what we have Lady Moffat for,
Yeah,
because I I don't want to do that.
yeah.
I made a story for a mud when I was 14, and then everyone else has done it in every other game, which tells me that I didn't make a very original story. I mean, of course, at 14 I thought it was original, but I think a lot of things when you're 14.
I mean, it could have been original for you.
Well, it was original for me,
Exactly. That's all that matters.
but I was also 14.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Well, awesome.
Yeah.
This has been
It's
very
good.
fun.
Yep. We made it through the first 4 chapters, and I'll probably do some. I think I'll go back into Advent of Code and just use Rust for it.
Did you use Rust for it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. Um, if we can ever nail down some sort of a schedule, we'll share it with everyone. Probably on, or mostly on Twitter, of anything. So
Well, I'm only on. Well, I mean, I have accounts and other things, but I only use Twitter.
the only one you use is Twitter. Yeah. Have you
Yeah.
started? Have you started doing more than Wordle? Are you still on your Wordle streak?
Yeah. I still am. I don't plan on tweeting or directly tweeting anything else this year. I'll tweet in replies. I'll like do tweet replies, but direct tweets only Wordle. At least that's the goal for the year.
Yeah. Are you you just Mars, not Marts.
Mars, Mars, like marzipan, Mars or
It's
Mars bar.
marzipan.
Planet.
Mart.
No, so it's M A
Send
R
one.
Z MARZ 619.
All right. So there are two Twitters. Twi- tweeters. Tweeters. I like tweeters. Um, but yeah. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll be back periodically throughout the week, and yeah, hopefully we'll see you.
Yeah.
Bye, Mar.
Bye.